Brother, are you all right?
No, I am not all right. I just shared a bottle of Kanar with Damar. That rhymes.
You're drunk.
Of course I'm drunk.
Well, good evening and morning for some people as well. Yes, little different time slot, trying a few different things. And yes, for those who didn't see the tweet, those of you out in the audience, it's the weekend, so doesn't matter what time it is. Grab your Romulan ale, grab grab your Saurian brandy, or for those who prefer, blood wine. Although I have this thing from Forcus 3 over here. Does anyone want to give it a try? Yes, it is a drinking encouraged version because, as you can see, yes, we are nearing the end of the movie reviews in the Star Trek universe because, well, wait. Are we going to do the JJ verse, or are we going to set that aside for another time and stick purely with actual prime timeline reviews?
I'll put my dime down on let's stick with the original run and then jump ship just a little bit with 2 or 3 non-Trek space-based movies and then go headfirst into the garbage bin and come back to the JJ verse. So we get a palate cleanser for how this series ends. Kind of upbeat, say like the last one before we do the go back into the JJ verse, maybe Spaceballs.
Yeah, well, we could do that. There are a number of movies we could go with for a review, and I'm thinking something more along the lines of maybe even Starship Troopers, something that is entirely campy, but also if you pay attention to it, actually does have quite the storyline to go with it.
Yeah, I mean that we could probably break God, why can't it? That movie, Starship Troopers. We could probably break that up into 2 separate episodes just to give us time to get into the individual storylines and the politics of it.
And that's kind of what I was thinking, is like do a base movie review, but then also have an episode dedicated just to an analysis of the politics.
Yeah, and then a rationalization of how this is run in that universe. Good, bad, indifferent. Is it something we should implement?
I will leave my commentary on that until that episode because I know I'm going to ruffle some feathers with it. But
I just want to be able to vote. I want to have a baby. I want to take showers with naked women and it not be creepy.
Well, I'm going to leave that one alone. Because I could say something really off color, but no. Now is not the time or place for that sort of humor because too many people would intentionally take it out of context. But for those who would be interested in that being a couple episodes coming up, we could even actually do it instead of breaking it up the way we have been. We could take the couple weeks back to back to do it, a couple shows back to back. If that's what the people who are watching right now would actually be interested in us doing after Nemesis, give us a "Would you like to know more?" in the side chat. Oh, because that's another thing. A lot of these movies really are immensely quotable, and not necessarily in a good way. Like, you gotta admit, even in this movie, there are some lines that are quotable, but not necessarily in a loving way.
True, very true.
So, I know our third panel member, Thoughts by Jay Brown, will be joining us momentarily. He is actually currently in transit back home because, well, the way the schedule worked out, it was a day that he was working later, and he's doing the nice thing. He's doing the husbandly thing and bringing home dinner. And so he will be joining us a little bit into the review of the movie, which is not a problem. I'll just have to redo a few things on the visual side, but I will do it on the fly because why the hell not? But as everyone can see, yes, I'm going to start off with an initial criticism of the movie. And keep in mind, there is a overriding question. Yes, it is the question that I put in the description if people actually paid attention. Is this movie really as bad as people remember it and try to say that it is?
Yeah. Seriously, as I'm going through this entire movie, watching it, it's like, I don't remember liking it this much.
And we'll get into that towards the end, because I think we can actually go through the movie aspect itself fairly quickly enough to really delve into that sort of commentary.
Go through all 554 slides?
See, that's gonna help, because there is overall, this, even though this was one of the more poorly performing Star Trek movies and did get, in places, appropriate criticism for how the movie came off, how it was portrayed, it still gave that vibe of an episode of Star Trek, but in a longer run format.
Mm-hmm. That is what it felt like, but as we go through, let's see if we can try and point out if there is any, but I didn't feel there... It felt episodic. It could have easily been a 1-hour episode, but I didn't feel like there was fluff. There wasn't, benign nothingness just to make it into a movie length. I did not feel that.
Oh, so it wasn't like the motion picture.
You mean it was 80% CGI just to show off that they could do it? That had 20 minutes of plot.
You gotta remember, what did I call it all through that review? Pure visual porn.
Oh, yeah, mentally, every time I watch a movie with that kind of stuff, it's like, yep, there's some PvP doing absolutely nothing but showing off their graphics.
Yeah. Which, that's what, half of Avatar? Let's do 3D. Why? Because we can. Okay, James. But with this movie, for people who don't know, the overall story is not dissimilar from an episode in, it was either season 5 or 6 of,
I don't remember which.
TNG. Yeah. It might have even been early 7. I'm drawing a blank right now because, yes, I'm a couple drinks in tonight because, kind of one of those nights. But with all of that, so everyone's favorite regular cast member from TNG that didn't make it into the movies, Wesley Crusher, his last episode on TNG was the commanded forced relocation of the Native Americans that the Traveler ended up showing up at. And Wesley then went off on the Traveler. There was an issue there where in that episode, at first, Picard was on board with following the orders as instituted because of the circumstances around it. And it wasn't until going through that entire endeavor, through that issue, that the actual moral side of it came out, and even Picard said, no, we can't do this. Not in this way. So,
and they nailed that scene. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, we So there is going to be a lot of that sort of callback, and a lot of, let's just say, Hollywood. You can watch that episode, then watch this movie as a quick masterclass on how to handle character development over time. Because yes, that's one of the things, is a lot of what this movie shows is purely character development. It is really about the people, not so much the situation, which is why they were able to recycle a base storyline, but still do it in a way that can actually be watchable. So, without further ado, we can get into more of the nitty-gritty of how they actually put this movie together, which a little bit of a reminder. Who was the director for the last movie, First Contact?
I don't remember.
Frakes.
Okay, yeah. So Frakes did this one, and Stewart did this one, or did the last one. Yeah. So and Stewart did this one.
No, this was Frakes as well.
I swear I saw that it was directed by Stewart in the intro. I could be wrong, but I know it was one of the lead cast.
I don't recall Stewart actually having directorial. And yeah, Icarus is right there. Frakes did both First Contact and Insurrection.
Yeah.
So, and here, get back to the original point that actually first popped into my head. My first criticism with this movie. We are 2 years after First Contact. First Contact was released in 96. This was released in 98. What did they change for the intro? The music, slightly. Because, well, different movie, different tone, different score. And then this color. But other than that, it was the same graphics for the title scroll at the beginning of the movie.
Really? I didn't catch that.
Yeah, it's the same fade transition on each, just with a different color scheme.
Okay.
Stewart did Nemesis. So we can blame Patrick for that. Oh, okay.
Patrick.
Damn you, Patrick. But alright, let's go ahead and get into this.
All right, so let me pull up my script. And so, opening scene. Interesting, quiet, unassuming, I have no idea what's going on type opening scene. Children playing. Oh, just caught it. First and final. Remember this. So we see kids playing in the hay. People wandering around a fairly idyllic small village. Some random planet that we do not know much about. And just people happily going about their lives.
And all throughout this, we're seeing, other than what is apparent to be the Federation input to this, the Federation observers, no major technology.
Yeah. So if you go back to this, you see absolutely no major technology. So this is clearly a pre-warp civilization on the surface. And then we get the first shot of something a little different. And we catch Federation members in some kind of an enclosure. And this was a very neat trick that they did here. I was impressed with this. A way to see the people that were hiding out in town to show where they are. And to recognize that we are observing these people, but we are not interacting with these people. And then we get our first call to alarm, where Commander Data is going haywire. And then here's more of that. Yeah, this was very entertaining for me to see that.
Yeah, it was one of those that is actually well done. And then we see those shots of who's... Oh, it's not just the Federation. They're working with someone.
Yeah. We have somebody new here that we haven't seen before. And they call for Commander Data, and it has gone haywire. There are shots fired. everybody in the town is now reacting and running away from an unknown something that they can't see.
Go back too quick, because bit of criticism as we're going through. Opening scene, it's all setting the tone very well, very lovely. What material does that footbridge appear to be made out of?
That's a reinforced concrete to be curved like that.
Or stone. Or manipulated stone, but otherwise a very rigid material.
Yeah.
Why did it flex like hastily put together wood?
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, if you go back and watch it, as they're running across, you see the deck of that bridge bouncing as they go along.
Mm-hmm.
Just one of the things the engineer side of me noticed, like, wait a minute.
It's not normal. So, battle sequence. Again, the villagers do not know what's going on. We have what appears to be Commander Data running and kicking some ass.
All while calling out a self-diagnostic process that's going on, so something done broke.
Yeah, so he's clearly malfunctioning. This is not something that we have ever seen from Data before. More Data kicking ass. Somebody falling into the water, and again, can't see what it is, but it's...
You see the results.
To show the astonishment of the villagers not recognizing what's happening. And then we have the not headless, but just head Data.
The apparently disembodied head, but...
Yeah.
And here's something that, again, call it a nitpick, but it's something that's kind of off. When this assailant comes up behind Data, which side is the assailant's head? It comes up over Data's right shoulder. But when Data does the headbutt back,
yep.
Which way does he grab? He grabs over his left shoulder.
Script supervisor screwed up on that one. So, throwing people down, their, what would you call them? Cloaking devices, individual cloaking devices are failing. And now we see Data getting a weapon, because he had not had a weapon before. He had been being shot at. Data gets a weapon from one of the others, landing party, and starts shooting at the building that's on the side of the mountain. Something that we will later be referred to as the duck blind.
Which is actually a very apt name for it, because that's essentially what it is. And does that hill look familiar? Like in another episode where there was a Federation outpost observing a pre-warp culture in a cloaked duck blind?
That is not from that episode.
Same area of California.
Well, you know, so many things are filmed in that area. So
yeah.
But it's not. I would say it's not a plagiarization. It's not a stealing it from the original. That's using what you've got.
No, agreed. It's just one of those little bit of tie-in in the background of how you will see multiple sites reused throughout the course of Trek, because hey, they already had access to this area, and you can only do so much to make a segment of Earth look like a different planet.
Yeah. Quick side note, there's a video from Tom Scott from a couple of years ago talking about the bubble in and around Hollywood where they film, and the reason why there's a specific zone that they film in, and that's because by the studio's agreement with the guild, the Actors Guild, I think it's 30 miles from a certain point in Hollywood. If they film within 30 miles of that, they don't have to pay anyone mileage. If you film at 31 miles,
you gotta
they
pay.
get the entire mileage. So they do everything they can to film in that bubble.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah. This scene was kind of comical to me after it goes fully apparent, and everybody just kind of slowly pops their head up of, hi.
Fuck.
What's going on down there? And the astonished look of the villagers, not realizing that they'd been spied upon all this time, not knowing how long anybody'd been there. And a look on Data's face that clearly shows
You
something is
motherfucker.
wrong. Something is very wrong. But we don't know what.
And
now, we go straight into the PvP.
But fitting PvP, because we then... It's like, okay, Data's there. Where's everyone else? What is going on?
Yeah, and when I say PvP at this point of the series, it is just enough graphics and effects to have an impact on the movie. It's not over glorifying just to show off. So this is the exact right amount of level of graphics.
Get the nice hero shot and get the view of... Oh, it's Captain's Pips. Must be Picard. Hey, new uniform. Oh, wait a minute. That's the dress uniform for the Dominion War era Starfleet uniforms. And it is a nice touch to actually see. And wardrobe, you did your job here. Great on you for how it actually came out.
I do love Crusher's comment here as she's putting on the pips. You either need a new uniform or a new neck. And Picard's response is, my collar size is exactly the same as it was at the Academy.
Yeah,
Of
okay.
course it was. Of course it is. And I can fit into my Class A's right now. Sure.
Yeah, just like I could still fit in my dress blues if I could find them and pull them out from wherever they are. Oh, wait, nope. But
So we get the hints that there is some kind of a formal event going on as Picard is practicing a greeting to make sure he's saying it appropriately.
Eugene Chefor.
The emphasis on the
Gene and
Chafa. Yeah. Start heading down the hallway.
Oh, this line right here. Because, so, throughout this walk, we are getting that necessary exposition where we find out that the race, what they're doing is they're essentially doing a follow-up to First Contact with a civilization because, well, after the results of the Dominion War, the Federation is a hurting puppy. So, she needs all the help and physical assets she can get.
Yeah, because the race that they're inducting into the Federation went warp a year ago. And it usually takes much longer than that to be inducted into a member of the Federation that new into space travel.
But not necessarily a member, a protectorate.
A protectorate. Yep, a protectorate.
And,
But that's when they make the comment of that we need as much help as we can get.
Yep, because of the losses from the Dominion. And then, with all of that, the line right before the doors close. Do you remember when we used to be explorers? Because that's essentially what most of Starfleet has come to at this point, is not so much exploring, but rebuilding following the Dominion War and being diplomats. So much so, they even said that the diplomatic corps is overtaxed, which is why the Enterprise is doing what she is right now.
Hey, Jay, how's it going?
It's going. I got my Kanar now. I'm good.
How was dinner?
I'm eating it between mute takes.
Wait. People are able to do that without
That's
having
why
a
I'm not.
problem?
This is why I don't have the camera on when I'm eating.
And we'll get a double furball. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so as we continue on, there is a little briefing that there's something going on somewhere else, but then they'll deal with it later. And we meet the new race. Do you remember what they're called?
Oh, honestly, that is something I did not write down in my notes.
Give me a minute and I'll see if I can pull it up on IMDb.
It should be in the script.
Yeah, I'm looking to see if I can find it. I can't find it. But we'll continue. Call for captain on deck. He goes to meet the leader of this group. And he is given a lovely gift. And I'm trying to remember, because there's a lot of really good one-liners in this one.
Well, it is part of the brief that Picard got on his way down was, oh, and there's a ceremonial dance that you have later on with that statesman, the leader of the people that he had just received this traditional gift from. To which Crusher is like, oh, in his day, the captain used to cut quite a rug. Are you hinting at something there, Doctor? I mean, we all know that she is quite the dancer as well.
So we continue on, and trying to remember. This isn't the first time that we've seen Geordi with the new eyes, is it?
No, that happened in First Contact. So what we have here is during when you had that shot of Riker. The reason why is because Geordi, through the comlink, was trying to reach out for Picard, and Riker stepped in and said, "Captain's kind of busy. He's about to walk in." It's like, oh well, we've just been requested for Data's schematics from Admiral Doherty. So that's what Geordi is now letting the captain know about, is that it's been reported that there's something wrong with Data. And the Admiral, so there's a flag officer on site in charge of that mission. A mission that we find out here was only supposed to be a week.
Okay, I have the name of that species.
All right.
They are the Evora.
Okay. Yeah, so there's a lot of red flags that why is an admiral on site for this? But so with that, Picard now recognizes that he needs to answer this call, starts to walk out of the room, and gets sidelined by one of the people there. Captain, we met last year at a conference. Did you ever have a chance to read my paper on thermionic transconducers? Would you excuse me?
Yeah.
And he just walks away.
Excuse
me?
That's the polite way of saying no.
No, I did not. So we meet Admiral Doherty. Starts talking about that Data is not responding to any protocols, having extreme abnormal behavior. He is now holding people hostage on the planet.
Which, of course, Picard is like, well, we're almost done here. We'll just come and meet you. No.
No. I just need the schematics. It'll take you forever to get here. Oh, and he also mentions at that point that it took us several days to get out of the Briar Patch, which has no comms in it. Oh, was it a day?
It was
get this message to you, so it would take too long. So just send us the schematics.
Yep. Hang on. OBS, why the fuck are you cracking? Okay, back to 7. Okay. Fucking bullshit. Anyways, so with that, we start talking. We get a glimpse of the conversation, more of the exposition between the two. Of Picard asks, "Problem with his emotions chip?"
No, he didn't bring it with him. Huh?
Which lets you know something major happened.
But I did not think that he could remove his emotions chip. He could deactivate it, but it had fused with his neural net.
Fused in generations. They were able to program in an on-off switch in time for First Contact. And do you really think Geordi would have left it at that?
True.
Because again, we are just in our calendar 2 years later.
True. So this would be the first time that we have been informed that he is capable of removing his emotions chip.
Yes.
So realizing that something is up, the captain indicates that I'd like our guests to depart as soon as etiquette allows. Which, very diplomatic.
Yep.
I mean, back in the old days of explorers, put on your working clothes, get on the bridge, but very diplomatic. And then he specifically says he's going to ask Worf to stay, delay his return from DS9 so that he can join.
And then we get the shot of another ship, which, cool shot, nice effect.
Mm-hmm.
We've already been told that it's the Briar Patch that all this is going on with, which, if you go by the Star Trek Online map, that is not terribly far away from DS9, so Picard could also have used the excuse, oh, we're taking Worf back to DS9, we'll just swing on by. Because one of the things that Geordi mentioned was, well, we're supposed to go here, which is in the opposite direction.
Oh, I forgot about that. That's in the opposite direction. Oh,
Is it?
Yeah, so they're in the opposite direction, sir. Are they? So we get the shot of, this is our first really good close-up of this new species, which are total lookers. I mean, clearly they are one of the most gorgeous beings in the solar system.
Oh, and they are all about the hygiene and physical appearance, too.
He's getting a facelift, literally.
And for those who don't know, we have, at this point, learned that this other new species here that we are being introduced to are the Sona.
So it's a joint task force. The Sona and the Federation apparently are on this expedition in the Duck Blind to observe this pre-warp civilization. And now we're getting the background of the Sona, where they have a full medical crew to enhance them. And the Ruafo, the leader here, actually asks Admiral Doherty, it's like, why aren't you taking advantage of all of the things that this trip has to offer?
Pretty much.
And his response... Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think he's actually looking at Doherty like he's Mozart.
Good call. Good catch.
Hey, I'm a big fan of Amadeus, even though it's not historically accurate.
True. It's a good movie nonetheless.
So Doherty's response to that is, I'd prefer to wait until we can share the benefits with all the people of the Federation, which starts out very altruistic. So that's his stance. So as of right now, you have no reason to question his motives. And I just got a text, hey Dad, you're a fucking nerd, sincerely your son. Thanks.
As if he didn't know already.
Yeah, how did he not know that? Now we go up to the bridge of the ship, and we are suddenly under attack.
And can find out it's the support ship from the crew on the planet. So, safe assumption? Oh, wait, it is. It's Data at the helm. So, something has gone to the point where Data is essentially on autopilot and doing basic threat analysis and reacting accordingly.
So I missed an opening shot as they go briefly back to the Enterprise. But the conversation, as they're getting closer, they're saying that they're losing communication with Starfleet because they're entering the Briar Patch. And the goal is that when they get there in 2 days, they have 2 days to become experts on how to turn Data off. And he talks to Commander Worf, says that he's got this tricorder, which tricorder technology is kind of like cell phone technology. They just keep getting smaller and smaller.
but more
so
powerful.
Yeah, well, this one only works 4 meters away, though. But that tricorder will shut down Data if they get close enough. And then you got to admit, some of these Briar Patch shots are gorgeous.
They truly are, because it does give you that view of what would it actually be like in that environment, in, for lack of a better term, such an alien place to be.
Yeah, I loved this one with the shadow being cast inside the cloud.
And now here we get Riker and Troy going through the available knowledge about the Sona, where we find out they were the leading manufacturer of Ketracel White during the war. To which Troy even asks, why are we dealing with these people?
Clearly these are not good people, but let's not pay too much attention to that, because I'm feeling a little frisky, and clearly so are you.
The flirtation, especially between these two through the mutual scenes in the movie.
I love this scene. This is a true romance scene to me, even though it's so short. And Riker's response of, "You haven't done that in a long time."
Done what?
What you're doing to my neck?
Am I doing something to your neck?
Perfectly played. Absolutely love it.
And the way these two play off each other, the actors, the way that they have been able to handle these characters throughout all these years, it's about fucking time.
Yes.
But they're doing it in a way that, yes, it's about time kind of thing, but at the same time, it looks and is written in such a way that it's natural, but it also implants a question of, what's going on here? They weren't like this before. They would have their moments, but not like this.
Apparently if I push the L button, it goes back to the beginning of my slideshow. There we go.
Oh, fuck.
So... What?
Ignore the side chat for right now.
Are you talking about the
Jared and I flirting with each other? God damn it. God damn it.
Don't worry, Karis.
He's got it already.
I'll make sure to send it to your Twitter DMs before I post it anywhere else.
Yeah, I could just see like the picture flashing back and forth between Jared's icon and my icon as we play that scene out. Thank you.
No, I have pictures of Jared and you. I can make a whole video out of it.
Oh, fuck, that's right. Anyways.
So then the next... Thanks, Karis. So now the next scene, we see Picard ringing Commander Worf. I don't know how they do it on Deep Space Nine, but on the Enterprise, we still report for duty on time.
And you get that, oh, shit. All right, I'm on my way.
I'll skip the court-martial this time. And then a flashback to just how amazing Picard is, asking when's the last time that we aligned the torque sensors? 2 months ago, sir. They don't sound right.
You're right. They were, what, 12 microns off?
How could you hear that? When I was an ensign, I could detect a 3-micron misalignment. But again, now he has been in Starfleet for how many years at this point?
Oh, God, they don't even... 25, almost 30?
It's got to be at least 30. So now, confrontation a little bit with Doherty. Captain, I wasn't expecting you.
We're in the area.
This was too important for the Enterprise to be on the sidelines. It's one of his crew members.
And Rafu is all about, no. there's no fixing this. We must destroy him. He's attacked us. He's holding my people hostage. Gloves are off from Rafu's position.
So Picard barters.
Mozart.
Picard barters. Let us get one chance to acquire data and free your people. If that fails, then you can have it your way. And Doherty gives him 12 hours.
And immediately we cut to one of the few times we've actually seen the main shuttle bay in use.
Now, my question here is, should we have not seen the force field?
If it was still pressurized, yes. If they depressurized on the way out because there was no one on the floor in the immediate area, then no.
I would think that would stay pressurized at all times with a force field.
Depends on where they put it. Depends on how they put the emitters. Because if they do a horseshoe and do it that way to where once the exterior personnel leave that ring and it switches and depressurizes directly around the shuttlecraft, could do it that way. That way you also have backups to where, say the outer doors take a hit, you're not losing those emitters.
True. So we see that
LRJ88 asks, isn't the main shuttle bay almost a whole fucking deck? Enterprise D. On the E, it's a little smaller, but it's still a good part of the deck.
Hey. Deck size is not all that matters.
No,
Karis, what do you got to say about that?
It's how you utilize it.
So now we see that Picard and Worf are the crew for the shuttle as they head down. And shortly after they approach the planet, they are encountered by Commander Data, who does a nice little flyby, Top Gun style, to say hi. They attempt to transport him, but he's using a transport inhibitor, and they can't get him. So, what was the next tactic? I forgot.
Use the ion trail from them going in to not be able to be detected.
Okay.
Yeah, because you temporarily lose sensors as you enter the atmosphere.
So
now, I'm gonna say this now. You two should be saying thank you to me.
Why is that?
Because I was tempted to send you guys the lyrics.
The song? I'm not singing. Not going to sing. I'm only doing romantic lines with you, Jared. I am not singing. I draw the line somewhere.
Hey, I'm sure if Karis donated $20, he would sing.
After the show?
No.
It's not how it works.
Oh, that is how it works. If we can get her to read cereal boxes, I'm sure we can get you to sing.
It's only a question of price.
I am pretty cheap, though.
That's what she said.
We have battle going on as they start entering Atmo. Oh, there's the Top Gun flyby.
Yep.
What were you doing? What was the line? Communicating.
Keeping up foreign relations.
Yes, keeping up foreign relations. And this is when Picard. So Picard realizes that. What's that?
Yeah. So Picard points out this. Like, wait a minute. He's using he's using tactics. He's anticipating our moves. His base functions and logical processes are there. Data was practicing for a performance before he left on this mission, and he goes over and he pulls up the song list of HMS Pinafore. But the first line, the beautiful bit, is so Worf has been at DS9. Picard asks him, "Are you familiar with Gilbert and Sullivan?"
No, sir.
I haven't had a chance.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to meet all the new crew since I've been back.
Oh no, 19th century composers. it gives that exposition that Data, in TNG fashion, was working on performing a play to further his understanding of humanity, which, let's be honest, it would be great to have seen that happen with him having the emotion chip.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Picard pulls up the song list of HMS Pinafore and goes to a British tar.
And he starts singing. A British tar is a soaring soul as free as a mountain bird. There, you fucking happy.
You know, maybe after show. After show, we'll go through the full thing.
His energetic first should be ready to resist. Come on, Mr. Worf, sing. That look.
Although, I think once Worf hears what the song is about, it's like, okay, this isn't terrible. And I see what you're doing, because as Picard is going through the song, Data starts chiming in and making it the duet that it's supposed to be.
All right, Jared, she says she's heard us both sing. Do you happen to have the lyrics up?
Not right now, but again, we can do that at the end of the show.
Oh, come on. I'm willing to do it right now. You've talked me into it. As long as
Hey,
as long as you're Data.
I wasn't. All right, give me a second.
If you want to see me sing, wait until I get my guitars here. You can watch it on Twitch.
There you go. I just sent you the link, Jared. It's in the side chat.
Yep. Move that over here.
I'll even jump back and forth.
All right, where? Okay, so you gave me the entire thing. All right, where?
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Yep.
There it is.
So we'll start with his nose should pant.
Okay, so you're starting right there. All right. So,
Yep.
Where Data starts chiming in, yeah. Okay.
Yep. All right. His nose should pant.
And his lips should curl.
His cheeks should flame.
And his brow should furl.
His bosom should heave.
And his heart should glow. And his fist be ever ready for a knockdown blow.
And they keep going back and forth. So clearly Data has been distracted and he is capable of former thought, not just his base function. So as they approach the ship, I'd missed the shot, but they dock onto the ship and Data recognizes they're there. And I'm sorry, but the absolute dumbest and worst camera work ever. I recognize that the ships are spiraling out of control down to the floor, or to the ground. But you don't literally just put your camera on a screwdriver and turn it on. It's really all these shots were. If it was interior, it was around and around and around and around.
Yeah. There are faults in this movie, and it's mainly down to cinematography.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's them putting it on like a spiral mount. It is literally them going into
Post.
into post and actually editing the digital film itself to spin that way.
Well,
yeah.
But we're getting motion blur in the background, independent of the character.
Motion blur. You can add motion blur.
In 98, that well?
You have to remember that After Effects and Premiere Pro were around then, and that at the time I believe they were the standard until all these other programs started coming out.
You know,
I could be wrong. It could have been the screw, but I don't think it was. It looks.
No, the thing is, I don't think that we've got motion blur.
The motion blur looks artificial.
I don't think I don't think that's motion blur, because there wouldn't be motion blur. I think that is just out of focus. We've got a sharp focus on the faces, and it's being spun around. So either if it was on a drill, which I don't think it was, I think it's post effect, and it was just a very short focal length on the face. That way, the background looked blurred.
Good call.
And then at the last second, they're able to pull up after they engage the inertial dampers.
Which, if they were going through a move like that without the inertial dampeners,
Oh, they would have been all over the cockpit.
Picard and Worf are dead.
Yeah.
But at which point, Worf is able to get up the hatch and pop the cover, and shit, the
Pushes the
remote's
off
not
button.
working. Now
But
remember,
then finally
he said
Go
it was a 4-meter effective range, which, as
Yep.
we all know, that probably means closer to 2. Which Data lunges, and as he gets to roughly 2 meters, then he shuts off.
Then, after we have Data back in custody, we are down on the surface to meet the villagers and to rescue the quote-unquote hostages that Data had been holding. And we can see that everybody's still generally happy, and these children have extreme hand-eye coordination.
It's almost like nothing is actually wrong. And the thing with the kids, so this screenshot doesn't show it, but they're playing a game that is essentially hacky sack with no less than 6 individual hacky sack pouches as they are all moving clockwise around each other.
Yeah.
And
I wish
not
I
one
had
miss.
half that. Wish I had half that hand-eye coordination
Yeah.
when I was their age.
So it looks clearly that nobody's being held hostage. Everybody seems like they're doing okay. And what was it? They said that Data had told them.
Let's go back to the script.
Asked them to disarm. So the people indicate that they were peaceful people, so they've asked the crew to disarm.
From Sojef, the artificial life form would not allow them to leave. In fact, he told us they were our enemies and that more would follow. And then the kid,
So he was. Yeah.
and then the kid, are you my enemy?
No, that's the woman that Picard becomes attracted to, who happens to have a thing for women with long hair in animated movies.
Discussion point for later.
So we meet the people here. They seem to be a very friendly people. They seem to be very peaceful people. And nobody seems to be in any form of distress.
Now, throughout this conversation, this is where it really gets... part of the veil starts to not just get pulled back, but fall off. Because, so Picard gives that brief overview of the Prime Directive, the non-interference, and Tornell there says there was a phase variance in his positronic matrix which we were unable to repair. And you see this look of confusion across the landing party because, well, look at what these people are dealing with. How do they know about the advanced technology? And that's where it's said that, oh no, we know about advanced technology, we just choose not to use it. We have warp capability. We just choose not to use it.
Capability, yes. But where can warp drive take us except away from here? So that establishes that the Prime Directive technically doesn't apply in this situation. There's something about the butterfly there, or the hummingbird.
Well, and that's a bit of foreshadowing to character development later on, where you see another bird of the same species.
Mm-hmm.
Because right here, like a hummingbird, the wings are moving so quick, you don't see them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we
So then the next
cut
Go
back
ahead.
to the ready room.
And Picard is now explaining that because they have warp capabilities, the consequences on their society are minimal. Doherty tells him he does a fantastic job. Pack your bags, get the fuck out. How's Data?
In stasis,
Yeah.
LaForge is completing the diagnostic.
I'll need all your paperwork tomorrow. We're heading back your way. Set your course to rendezvous. We will transfer on your way out. And that's when Picard asks, "You're not finished here."
Just a few loose ends to tie up. Something don't smell right with this one.
Yeah, there's just something weird. And then we get beautiful shot of how gorgeous this planet actually is. And
Oh, you know the request is coming, but
no,
not
not
this time.
Nope, not gonna happen.
Nope, not this time.
We've romanced each other enough, Jared.
Nope, not
Later.
enough.
Well, whatever makes you comfortable, but this isn't one of the useful therapeutic postures. But it's comfortable.
or better yet, on this, Riker asked a question about, where was the exact question? Counselor, do you think it's possible for two people to go back in time and fix a mistake they made? On this ship, anything's possible. At which point, Riker moves in and does the true Riker maneuver. And the response? Yuck!
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 You've never kissed me with a beard before.
I kiss you and you say yuck?
And she pushes him out of the room. Now we're back to Picard and LaForge talking about Data. And at this point, we learned that the issue with Data is actually because he was hit by a Sona weapon. There's no doubt about it that being shot by a Sona weapon is what caused Data's malfunction.
And what LaForge had handed was showing Picard there were memory engrams. So, and that's what caused the cascade failure, which was essentially a hard reset and reboot into safe mode.
Yes. Went back to his baseline personality of, what did they say it was?
So when does Defender actually work, huh?
The one time.
His ethical and moral subroutines took over all of his basic functions. So what you're saying is he still knew the difference between right and wrong. And LaForge's response, in a sense, that's all he knew. So now we see Data. LaForge turns him back on. And
Geordi, Captain. To which they had to let him know, you're on the Enterprise.
I seem to be missing several. Memory engrams.
To which
There they are.
Again, Kurtzman, if you want comedy in Trek, this is how you do it.
Yes, you don't lay it on too thick. That is perfect. There are other parts in this scene in the movie that are a little too thick, but that's one that is perfect.
Well, you first of all have to have actors that can do it.
Oh no, I just read the next couple lines and I have to say, Data, what's the last thing you remember? And he immediately goes into the song. Not stating it, but starts singing it.
His nose should plant and his lips should curl. From the Mission.
I was in an isolation suit gathering physiometric data on the Baku. My last memory is going into the hills following some children.
And then we get to meet this movie's version of the Star Trek Porg, which, again, if you're going to compare this to the right way to do something, that little thing is adorable. It didn't need to be one of the main characters of the goddamn movie. Listen to what I'm saying, Star Wars. I don't give a shit about your Porgs. Or the fact that Chewie ate one of them.
Wait, you mean that wasn't a win?
I was gonna say that was awesome, actually.
As the other ones give him a dirty look.
And then Chewie looks like, what? You want to be next?
What? So now we're down on the planet, trying to find out what the last thing that Data saw was. And we now discover that this young boy here is afraid of Data.
Which, do you really fault him?
No. I mean, he is the disembodied head that was floating around his village several days ago.
Especially seeing as how it was those kids who were running across the footbridge when a Sona phaser blast hit the edge of it.
Mm-hmm.
To say the kid would be traumatized, it's a bit of an understatement.
Data tries to tell him there's no reason to fear me. They fixed me.
Oh, that could be so... Well, he is anatomically correct.
And well-versed in multiple techniques.
And then we cut to... Now, here's the interesting bit. We don't know whose quarters they're in, but the script tells us it's Riker's. So, after all of that, Troy went to Riker's quarters, and we get this very intimate moment between the two.
And he receives a call from Admiral Doherty, tells him to patch him in, and Doherty asks, why haven't you left orbit yet?
You know, I'm checking on something because I'm trying to remember what rating this actually had.
It
was it PG-13 or PG?
I don't know. I've got the Wikipedia page up, but it doesn't show it. PG.
Yep, and I can see why. Because you have the moment like this where there's no way around the adult connotation here. But with how much Trek in general has actually toyed with those and outright insinuations, it is still done in arguably some of the most tasteful fashions as possible.
LRJ-88 has a really good point. Should you really use a straight razor on one of the ships most known for shaking about like a cheap motel bed?
Well, is it really a razor at that point, though? Like, how true to form are they going? Which, by the way, sorry, straight razor, closest shave you'll ever get.
And
never had.
I have to answer Anamorphic Mind's rating question or rating comment. No, it wasn't Star Trek Insurrection. That was Star Trek Insemination.
Yeah. That was the non-canon movie, wasn't it?
Yeah.
All right, so Doherty's asking why they haven't left orbit yet. Riker says that Picard was still on the surface, that he didn't want to leave until they had adequately explained Data's malfunction.
Because Data's future in Starfleet could depend on it.
And Doherty ends the conversation with, remind the captain his 12 hours are up.
And
you don't like to live dangerously, LRJ-88?
I just saw that. Well, you know, Danger is some people's middle name. Maybe we should put that on the list too.
Oh, that should definitely be on the list. There's some science fiction, time travel and all that.
Yeah, especially in the second one. Yeah, that could work.
Cryogenics in the first one, time travel in the second and third.
Add them to the list.
So here we get a brief scene, not much in dialogue, but we're getting more of a view of what is going on with the Sona. Because you can definitely, by this point, you're getting to tell, while Doherty is the one pushing, it's not because of him that the pushing is happening. It's because of the entire situation. To which the Sona doctor right there says, your body is producing far too many toxins. We've reached the limit of genetic manipulation.
And then you get the purpose for the movie. I won't need any more genetic manipulation if our Federation friends would allow us to complete this mission. So we don't... Something ulterior is definitely going on.
Why are they stealing props from the Matrix, by the way? It's just a smaller version.
It also has the cross guard.
Well, that was just the precursor to The Force Awakens. Foreshadowing.
But that happened a long time ago. Anyways. We get
back down on the surface.
Back to the investigation. We start to get more of the environment that they're dealing with here, where Data lets everyone know tricorder functions are limited due to the heavy deposits of kelbonite in these hills. To which Picard recommends a different type of scan parameter, and Data's curious. There appear to be strong neutrino emissions coming from the lake. And Data, being Data, just keeps on walking.
Data doesn't breathe? Won't he rust?
It's almost like Highlander.
This is a cheesy scene. I accept it. It's not one of my favorites. It is cheesy, though.
It is, but it does give us a good precursor to one of the better scenes coming up.
Like I said, Jared, earlier, it's the third best scene.
Wait till you see the screenshot that I've got coming up.
I think that's number one.
So Data comes out and says, I think I've discovered the cause of the neutrino emissions. Walks over to the dam and, single-handedly empties the lake.
Well, it definitely lowers the water level, and you start to see water coming off of the surface of something that is quite obviously cloaked.
So here's one of my nitpicks. If that thing was under the water line on the ridge behind them is clearly wrong.
Oh yeah, it should have been much higher.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we should be seeing much more beach. So everyone is a bit shocked, wondering what the heck it is.
Well, at this point, so Data comes over and says the vessel is clearly Federation in origin, and Picard, just a few loose ends to tie up. He knows now what's going on.
Yep. And then as the boy is walking out to join them on the end of the bridge, so Jeff grabs him. We're not interested in such things.
I am.
And she marches right out with him and sits down on the boat. I'm going with you. They boat their way out to this mystery ship. At least we did not get a open sesame. You can only do that once.
Yes. And even then, don't. Just writers out there, if you are ever tempted to use a line like that,
open sesame. No.
I guess you could say I have a magnetic personality.
And then I love as they walk in, Data says it's a holographic projection, and Picard starts with, "What you're seeing is a computer-driven image created by photons and force fields."
I know what a hologram is, Captain. It really just goes to show that just because someone doesn't use a technology that you are familiar with doesn't mean they don't know what it is.
And Data now has the revelation that it is conceivable that I was shot to protect the secret of this ship's existence. And, ironically, with that statement, guess what's going to happen right now? Everyone else is going to get shot trying to protect that ship's existence.
Well, because the lingering question is, why the town? And that's when shots go off. And now here's the question. Did she jump? Or did one of them push her? Data has a history of it.
He does. And being in the water is more safe than in front of the phaser blast.
Any
And
little details.
We see that the perpetrator is a Sona crew member. Some nice battle scenes. And direct
Is it-
hit.
Oh, go back one.
What, taking a look at the
Isn't Data looking like he's constipated? Ate too much Wendy's or
Little bit.
something?
Taco Bell, and he's trying to hold it in?
You see what's in the
Chipotle.
background. Hey, Jared, you see what's in the background?
Are you talking about the quilt or the rest of it?
Yeah. The quilt that Picard comments on later on in the movie.
Exact replica.
Yep, exact replica of the town. Shoot the Sona, he falls down. They walk over to the edge of the ship. You want me to just leave it there for a little bit, or are you worried about demonetization?
I'm worried about YouTube. But Data does have the right response to it.
So we'll but see there it's clear. It's a shirt. It's a shirt.
Yep,
Totally
yeah,
it's
it's
a
shirt. She's
In the event
totally
of a
clear.
water, in the event of a water landing, I have been designed to serve as a flotation device.
But did you have to rise in that fashion, Data?
Everybody's back on the ship. Did the hostage? Picard asks Worf, because Worf has been dealing with the people coming back up to the ship. Did the hostages mention a cloaked ship during their debriefing? No, sir.
Debrief him again. Have you been in a fight, Mr. Worf?
No, sir. It's a gorge.
Gorge.
It's a pimple, sir.
Data leans over. Pimple. Oh. Well, it's hardly noticeable. And again, if you're going to do comedy in Trek, Picard says that, walks off, Data turns as if he's going to leave, but then leans back and looks again.
And it's not just like a little look, it's quite literally, it's a lean back.
A complete lean, like, no, you can't see it.
No, it's good, it's good.
So now
You
we
got a
meet
little
up
Brett
with...
Spiner for that type of comedy.
Yeah. See, Commander Riker in the hallway, now shaven, and he caresses his face and says, "Smooth as an android's bottom, eh, Data?" And then we move on. We're in the turbo lift. And the only thing... They get in, Picard calls for Deck 5, and Riker looks at Worf's face. Klingons never do anything small, do they?
And
you forgot the most important part about the Data Riker interaction. Was after Data felt it, he shook his head no.
Oh no, we're not there yet.
We're not at that part yet.
I have a screenshot of that.
But yeah, so again, at the time, people were not as keen on this stuff, but looking back on it and looking at Trek in general, this sort of banter, especially with what we come to find out about the region of space that they are in, done
Yes.
wonderfully. Because
Yes.
these are people who are friends on top of colleagues. Like, friends first, colleagues second. So you expect this sort of banter and give and take. And especially with Data being more a part of it now, that he has the emotions chip, and it's not throwing his entire system into a fritz.
Well, it's almost like they modeled it after, a submarine and the way the crew acts. Even the officers and enlisted joke and laugh and make fun of each other all the time.
Yeah.
We know when the bounds, military dignity is required of us, but other than that, it's like, meh.
Yeah, and that's in just about every occupation. I could, attest that there are times that we act like stupid idiots, and it is just frickin' hilarious.
Now, there is one part of the community, military community, in general, where you actually don't have that sort of, shall we say, luxury. And it's a subset of the aviation community. So all your aviation squadrons that have mixed officer and enlisted air crews, you get that banter similar to on a sub, similar to other sections of the military where there's a line, but you can still joke from established enlisted with the officers and back and forth. Your VFA squadrons, your fighter jock squadrons, those guys are fucking assholes. And
Really?
oh yeah. Oh, especially when the 14 was still flying, because keep in mind, your VF squadrons were even worse because at the time I joined, in order to get a seat in a Tomcat, you had to have a minimum number of hours in a Hornet and be in the top 1% of PFA and evaluation scores just to be considered for a Tomcat squadron.
So this is a little banter from a recent trip that I had. Not too much detail, but we were in a spot. I was out front. We've got a group chat of about 12 people. And I was out front getting ready to call whenever the event was done and we were walking out. And my guy on the inside starts walking towards the door. So I send out the group chat, getting ready. And then he kind of waves off, like, no, we're not done yet. He turns around. So my next comment is, disregard, premature again. Sorry, I have that issue. And then my guy on the inside texts me directly, my bad. And I respond, when you get close to me, things like that happen prematurely. His response to that is, can you create a 32-point PowerPoint slide explaining that to me? And I respond to him, I can try, but the climax is going to be on slide 2. So, yes, there is banter like that just about everywhere. And then his response after that was, okay, so 30 white slides then.
Oh. Gotta love it.
Yep.
All right, so now we're getting into more the nitty-gritty where Crusher gives Picard the update that of all the people who were being quote-unquote held, the Starfleet crews, no problem with examination. The Sona refused examination and were thereby confined to quarters because, hey, we don't know if they're carrying anything. But the results from the Starfleet crew members, not only were they in perfect health, they were in better health than what their records showed they should be in.
Increased metabolism, improved muscle tone, energy. We should all be this lucky. So then we go back out into the hallway where Worf, Picard, and where am I at?
Yep. Picard to Worf. Don't release the Sona officers until I've talked with Adhar or Rafu. Sir. And then
There we go.
as Riker's walking off, Data's like, "Commander, may I? May I?" Data does the touch test.
No. And then Picard, computer, music, and it starts playing classical music. No, not that.
no.
Something Latin.
And he starts to mambo.
That's more like it. And then he realizes he has a epiphany and beams back down to the surface, goes to God, Sojef and Anya? How do you say her name?
Anish.
Anij.
Anish.
Yeah.
Okay, Anish. And he just straight up asks them, "How old are you?"
And then we get the explanation from Sojef there that the Baku are actually very old. Like, very old. Almost as old, if not older, than the Federation itself. That they were once a spacefaring civilization as well. And they found this planet in the Briar Patch and decided, why would we ever want to leave? No, we're done.
At the time, they were escaping technology because the technology was threatening to destroy the planet, so they fled. And dumb luck that they ended up here.
Yeah. And Picard asks, it's like, "Oh, so you haven't aged a day since you got here." Actually... So Sojef, the man, actually said, "Actually, I was a good deal older when we arrived in terms of my physical condition." So Anish says that it's the unusual metaphasic radiation coming from the rings continuously regenerate our genetic structure. You must have noticed the effects by now. And that's where we get into the question of, we've already seen physical signs of it. One of the things that it wasn't shown in the script and you didn't catch it on the screenshot is, after that little dance move that Picard did, he's looking in the mirror. There is actually was supposed to be a scar on his cheek from when he was assimilated by the Borg. It's not there anymore. And that's what clues him in that, oh no, from what Crusher just told me and that, he started to put it together already. He just needed confirmation of it.
Yep. And then he looks over at the kid and says, "I suppose you're 75.
I'm 12.
The metaphasic radiation won't begin to affect him until he reaches maturity." And Picard just lays it out that to most offlanders, what you have here would be more valuable than gold-pressed platinum. I'm afraid that's the reason that someone may be trying to take your world away from you.
To which Artem is like, the artificial life form was right. Now, and this goes to the question that I put as the title of this review. What would you do for eternal youth? Because that's what this is going for. Is they have found a literal fountain of youth that anyone would give just about everything they could for, just to have access to it. But there's more to the story here.
If we get into that conversation later, I have my answer.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have a nice little walk between Anish and Picard, and explains that most of their people who live faster lives would sell their souls to slow it down. And she kind of calls him out, "But not you?" And he tells her there are days that he would. And she tells him, "You don't live up to the reputation of other offworlders." And there we see the the quilt that we had seen inside. It would be interesting to look and see if it is the same one. It looks like it, I think.
Yeah, with the amount of detail that they were putting into it, it appears that it was at least supposed to be.
In this, so he says extraordinary craftsmanship. And Anisha's response is, it's the work of students. They're almost ready to become apprentices. In 30 or 40 years, some of them will take their place among the artisans. These people, I was going to say play the long game, but they're not playing the long game. They are enjoying life to the fullest without burdens of anything off the planet.
This is what Generations was going for. The line from Soren, "The predator has no teeth." This is it.
Yep.
Yeah. With time being the ultimate predator, this world, the place that the Baku have found to live, is the exact place where time doesn't matter. I know a bunch of people who would love to be in a place like that because they are the quintessential never-ending question asker and actually wanting to know more, having that insatiable thirst for knowledge. That's the type of place that those people really deserve to be in, because then they can truly have the amount of time to dedicate to understanding everything that they are genuinely curious about.
Yeah, and she says to him, it's like, you're always an explorer. If you stay here long enough, that'll change. And Picard asks, will it? And I love her response, and then her question following it. You stop reviewing what happened yesterday. You stop planning for tomorrow. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever experienced a perfect moment in time? When time seems to stop, and you could almost live in that moment forever.
And like any astronaut, the moment that he refers to, seeing my
time
home,
he saw his home planet from space,
really puts things into perspective.
Now, what will come up later in the movie is a true perfect moment that your average person watching the movie can actually recognize as a perfect moment when time does stop for him.
Yeah. Now, as they go through and are building more of that, Picard really does ask the perfect flirtatious question. There's one thing I don't understand. In 300 years, you never learned to swim?
I just haven't got around to it yet. It's a very cute question. And yes, very flirtatious.
But again, written and performed in such a way that it's quintessentially natural in how it was done. It's not over the top. It's not pushing anything. It's not trying too hard. Hint, hint.
And at this point, you can see they are getting a little bit closer as they continue their conversations. Picard walks out, and he sees Geordi up on a hill. And Geordi no longer has his implants. Because earlier he had been complaining about irritation with the implants. And what it turned out to be is it was not irritation with the implants themselves. It was regeneration of the original tissue.
As it turned out, there wasn't anything wrong with my implants at all. There was something right with my eyes. And it's just... This is one of those moments that really is touching when you think about it, because of... early on in TNG, LaForge was asked a number of times, would you give up your visor in order to be more like everyone else, to be able to see the way everyone else does? And he had come to grips with his limitation, with his burden of the way his eyes were not formed. And yet there were still moments where he even agreed and actually stated that, yeah, it would be nice to, but I understand what I've come to deal with, and it's part of who I am. Changing that would fundamentally change who I am. So it really does have that sort of link to it. And then this happens to where, without asking for it, he's able to see it, and he recognizes it and takes that opportunity to, as he even said, it may not last, and if it doesn't, I just wanted, before we go, I've never seen a sunrise, at least not the way you see them. And if you're not paying attention, if you're not getting to actually see the world around us as it is and our place in it, you miss these things. You miss what could so easily be taken for granted.
It's hard to be angry at this movie.
Yeah. It's why I posed the question I did it in the description. Was this movie really as bad as a lot of people remember it as being? Are there bad moments? Yes. We've already have hit a number of them, and there's more to come. But overall, was it really a bad movie? Or was it a bad Star Trek movie? Right now, I'm leaning towards no on both counts. Was it one of the worst movies? Was it in the lower half? Yeah, it's right around that mid-mark. But when you have 9 prime timeline movies, not everyone is going to be top 5 or top 4.
Yeah. So after the sunrise scene, we move on back up to orbit with Ruafo confronting Picard, and we can see that the Sona ships are converging upon the Enterprise. And Ruafo comes in, indignant that Captain Picard is not releasing his men. And Picard tells him, "We found the holoship." And Ruafo literally sees red.
I was going to say, and Doherty, doing what an admiral should, steps in and is like, "Ruafo, no. My people, my group, I have rank and authority here over him. Step back." And Ruafo is pissed to the point that he pops a vessel. Right there.
And then storms out, and Doherty starts to do the admiral diplomating thing, and just tells Picard, "You're looking well. Rested." And Picard just throws it straight down. "I won't let you move them. I will take this to the Federation Council." And Doherty says that he's acting on Federation Council's orders.
And Picard calls it what it is. Because, again, this is where that throwback to the TNG episode comes in. Picard has been here before. He has been in damn near the exact position before. And at first he went along with it like Doherty was. At first he was like, "No, this is what we need to do. They're Federation citizens. We need to protect them. We need to get them out of harm's way. We need to put them in a place that is better suited for their health and well-being." And it was not even an officer at that point. It was Wesley, of all people, to wake Picard up to it then that that's not right. Relocating these people in this way against their will is not right. It is not ethically right. It is not morally right. It is not legally right in any way, shape, or form. And in similar fashion, roles reversed in a way, but just shifted slightly. Now Picard is the one doing that to Doherty. Even going to the point of asking very adamantly, but still measured and controlled, how many people does it take, Admiral, before it becomes wrong? 1,000? 50,000? 1,000,000? How many people does it take, Admiral? And that's it right there, because the Admiral's argument was, well, it's only a few hundred people.
600. It's nothing. For the benefits that this planet would give to the Federation by doubling human lifespans, by being able to regenerate injuries and illness, what is 600 people moving to another planet?
Oh, and Jared, I found the episode you're looking for. Journey's End, Season 7, Episode 20.
Oh, it was towards the end of 7. See, I thought it was 7. It was towards the beginning.
Is the Cardassians are claiming right to a planet that's inhabited by the Native Americans?
Yep. And it is because of the treaty to end the Cardassian War, and ended up spawning the Maquis.
Yep.
So at the end of this scene, Doherty gives an order. I'm ordering you to the Goran system. I'm also ordering the release of the Sona officers. File whatever protest you wish, Captain. But by the time you do, this will be done.
And now we cut to, please tell me you got a couple shots of this. Hey, that looks like a commanding officer's desk. Yep, right here. And immediately, without a word, this scene, perfectly done with no dialogue required. Picard removes his rank from his collar, signifying to anyone who's paying attention, he's going off script. He is like, no, you say that, I'm not letting it happen. Commission in Starfleet, order from an admiral or not, this is wrong. It will not happen on my watch.
In a equivalence of Commander Data, he has just been shot by a Sona weapon and has gone back to his base function of knowing nothing other than right and wrong. And this is wrong.
And with that, we cut to the Sona ship, where we get a wonderful piece of dental work on one of the random Sona crew members. To which one of the formerly held Sona is now returned, and Rafu greets him and is pointing out that everything's ready to go, but there may be problems.
Did you encounter any problems on the surface? And Gilliton says, no, sir, but it wasn't easy being among them.
I'm sure.
Which, a little more foreshadowing in Ruafo's response.
Just don't forget what they did to us. So, right there confirms it. It's personal. But why is it personal? Tune in next week. Sorry. Sorry. I saw the time and it was like, oh, I could do that. Yep, I'm... But no, we are finishing this one out because, why not? It's the middle of the weekend.
So now, this might be one of the only scenes from the captain's yacht.
It is.
This is the only time we've seen the interior of the captain's yacht?
It is, and it's the only time we've seen the captain's yacht actually on screen. They were intending to use Voyagers at one point. They even had the beginning of the film work and effects ready for it, but they never used it.
So we've got Picard coming in, beaming in some materials, and off camera we hear Commander Data. Rerouting the transporter grid to avoid detection was wise, sir. However, the transporter is rarely used after 200 hours. And nitpicky. So, that line is after this. I forgot I had this shot. This just irks me. Jared, can you predict why this irks me? What's about to happen?
Oh, because the way he sets it back down.
He fucking points it at himself. What the hell is with muzzle discipline?
But is it really a muzzle? I guess we could call it emitter discipline.
True, yeah, emitter discipline.
But still, the principle remains. You treat every firearm, every projectile or emitting based weapon as if it is loaded, ready to go in an unsafe manner. You always treat it as it could go off, whether intentionally or not.
That's always good advice for the bedroom as well.
And phone goes off in 5, 4, 3.
That's why I keep mine on vibrate. But that's when we get Data's voice, and you hear Troy taking the captain's yacht out for a spin, and Worf lists off the massive amount of equipment that he's coming down to the surface with, and Riker's comment, "Looks like you're planning on doing some hunting."
To which Picard tries to order them all back to their quarters, even saying, "That's an order." And Riker, perfect response.
No uniform, no orders.
I guess we get a reprieve from that one there.
Yeah. We'll hear about it later.
And this is where LaForge, of all the people who are dealing with changes from simply being there, LaForge has to be the linchpin. And I think that's where it was really a combination of things that hit Picard to push him to this. And LaForge, with his eyesight, was the last straw. And LaForge here says, how can I look at another sunrise knowing what my sight cost these people?
And here is one of those scenes that perturbs me. I like how this starts, but I hate how they close the door on it. Data, says, I feel obligated to point out that the environmental anomalies may have stimulated certain rebellious instincts common to youth that could affect everyone's judgment. Except mine, of course. And then Crusher asks, Data, what do you think we should do?
Saddle up, lock and load, and see...
No. Stop at the first line. Stop. Why? Why do you have to go cringe-inducing? I would have accepted saddle up.
Yeah, but at the same time, really, Data, you are going to play I'm an android, I'm not affected by this kind of stuff.
And,
really?
And then that.
Really? Are you, though?
Yeah, I don't know. That's one of the few lines that really bothers me.
I almost made it the thumbnail.
So then Picard instructs Geordi and Riker to take the Enterprise, get out of the Briar Patch, notify Starfleet Command. We'll hold out as long as we can. Which, I'll talk about this a little bit later. I mentioned it during, not First Contact, but Generations. Riker in the seat. I love seeing Riker in the seat. And Picard's instructing him to sit in the seat, and he he fills it better than any other captain out there.
It makes sense why, for so long of TNG, there was that running offer for him to have a command of his own, but he chose to stay on the Enterprise. He chose to stay at Picard's side, not because he wasn't ready, but because he felt like that's where he belonged. And another bit of foreshadowing for the next movie.
Yeah. So now we see the captain's yacht departing.
Which is named the
I don't know.
Calypso.
Now, next scene is the Sona tactical room stating that the Enterprise has left orbit, but one of their support craft is down on the surface. 5 personnel are on board.
And Rafu... So the assumption that Picard makes is, well, they're not going to start whatever they're doing until everyone's off the planet. Yeah, not so much from someone who used to be in league with the Dominion. Rafu straight up says, we're not waiting until morning. Take the shuttles and get everyone off the surface tonight.
At which point we get down to the surface and we see what is actually happening, what Picard's plans are, and the plans are GTFO. Get out of the town, get away. And they start talking about what the plan is, and they are putting up
Transport inhibitors.
Yep, transport inhibitors, and that they're going to leave the town, and they're going to follow the heaviest concentrations of the carbonite that will mask them from being transported out.
Yep.
And about that time, the Sona shuttles appear, and everyone starts a-running.
And then they start knocking out some of the transport inhibitors after realizing, hey, our transporters aren't working. Oh, they put up these. All right, let's take them out.
So at this point, the Sona are still not trying to kill people. They are still trying to remove them from the surface. But even when you're not trying, there's collateral damage.
Yeah. Always is.
And we can see that now that some of the inhibitors are down, people are randomly being transported out.
Yep, they're making...
Well, that's I was going to say, they're being tagged with a transport.
Not yet.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
This is just the area inhibitors that they put up that they've knocked out a few, so they've created some gaps, and they're transporting people as they run through those gaps.
Yep. Worf points it out that they've lost 3 inhibitors. There are gaps in the field. And... oh, that's my desktop. I actually took a picture of my desktop.
Nice.
Has nothing to do with the movie.
Hey, it's fitting, though. It fits into the landscape
It
of where
looks like the lake.
It does. Back in the tactical room, tells them that they're following the carbonite deposits, using the interference to block their transporters. And what are the recommendations?
Well, and the Admiral being the Admiral, let me go down there and talk to Picard. Yeah,
Talk? We should send out an assault team and take them by force.
That is not an acceptable option. If people get hurt, all the support we have in the Federation, and Ruafo loses it completely at this point. Just railing on how, by his point of view, from his standpoint, the Federation and all their rules, all their restrictions, all their protocols have done nothing but create problem after problem and delay after delay of what he wants to do.
This is a beautiful anti-soliloquy about the Federation from Ruafo. Federation support, Federation procedures, Federation rules. Look in the mirror, Admiral. The Federation is old. In the past 24 months, they've been challenged by every major power in the quadrant. The Borg, the Cardassians, the Dominion. They all smell the scent of death on the Federation. That's why you're embracing our offer, because it will give you, your dear Federation, new life. Well, how badly do you want it, Admiral?
Yeah, and
And he's not wrong.
he's not wrong, but he's not right either. Yes, they smell blood in the water. They didn't smell death. They smelled blood in the water. And we can get into that whole bit and actually do a Dominion War arc analysis from DS9, because that's what this is stemming from ultimately, is why did that happen and how did it play out? And arguably some of, if not the best writing Star Trek has ever had was throughout the Dominion War arc of DS9.
And now is when you see Doherty. I wouldn't call it a turn. What would you call this?
Acceptance.
So they've recognized that the Enterprise is 19 hours from being able to communicate with the Federation. And Doherty says, I'll order Commander Riker to turn the ship around. It's like, do you really believe he'll listen? My ships are capable of intercepting the Enterprise before it reaches the perimeter. I could send them to
escort it back.
But Commander Riker might not want to come.
And Doherty, there's reluctance, but at the same time, this is where I say what we're seeing from Doherty here is conscious acceptance. He's finally realizing what he's done at a conscious level and has accepted his fate, that this is a situation that I let it go to. There's no turning back now.
Send your ships. He is now officially a traitor. In my eyes.
Yeah, it was a progression. It was a progression that we saw happening, but that's why I say this is the conscious realization of it.
Yep. So the next scene, we are now down in the foothills as we see our caravan of travelers trying to get as far away as they can out into the mines that will block them from being transported out. And we start seeing the engagement between Data and the boy.
Artem.
Ask him, do you like being a machine?
I aspire to be more than I am.
I know why. I know why. Some people like us won't be afraid of you anymore. So if he's more human, then people won't be afraid of him.
Perhaps.
Then they talk about walking, and does he run out of energy?
And you get that, and this is where you see almost a kindred spirit connection here, because for much of the material of the Next Generation crew, while Wesley was an actual child, Data was almost seen as a child. He was very childlike in a lot of circumstances. Still had a lot of growth, but you still had that innocent curiosity and innocent.
Has Data ever interacted with a child?
His pen pal in season 1. And a couple other randoms, but it's been very sporadic. But actually, the handful of times that it happened in the series, it was always the same thing. Data would end up connecting with the youth of a civilization faster and more effectively than the adults, because, again, it's that genuine innocence of how genuine Data is, because up until the last up until the movies, he did not have emotions to pull from. Mm-hmm. He did not have that sort of baggage to go with. So he wasn't encumbered by it. So but at the same time he was hindered by it the way children are often hindered by inexperience and the lack of knowledge of certain things.
Yeah, and Data says it right here. Perhaps it would surprise you to know that I often imagine what it would be like to be a child. Because he kind of emotionally and mentally is.
Yeah.
And then, let's see. Oh, Mr. Worf, you need a haircut. Accelerated hair growth is often experienced by Klingons during Jok'Tala.
Yeah, to which
And
Anish asks,
Anish asks, yeah.
roughly translated, puberty. Although for a Klingon, that scarcely does it justice. Any severe mood swings, unusual aggressive tendencies, you let me know at once.
Yes, sir. And then they decide to camp out for about an hour or so to give everybody some rest. They identify some spots out in the hills. And here we have another one of those just casual, flirtatious, honest questions or comments that is crossing the lines between being just friendly and being emotionally friendly to me. And she points out that it's been 300 years since I've seen a bald man.
And which Picard immediately goes back because he sees the writing on the wall. He knows it's there. It's, how is it that you've never married?
And don't tell me it's just because you haven't had time yet.
And at which her answer really is actually probably the best one she could have given. What's the rush?
What's the rush? And Picard, being Picard, this is the most flirtatious you can be without being flirtatious, but clearly being flirtatious.
I should warn you, I've always been attracted to older women. But, hold on there, JL. Yeah, I had to go that route because... Are you saying that Beverly is older than you?
Ooh. So then at this point, to me, this is the moment. This is the moment that every one of us can experience where time stands still. Just lightly holding hands as everything around them stops.
And we actually get that. You get that flow of water come to a crawl in their perception. The release from the flower where you can see the dispersal pattern without a problem. And then, what you noticed before earlier in the movie, we get the view of the hummingbird, or that world's approximation of a hummingbird, where you actually see in slow progression the beating of the wings.
And Picard asks her, "How are you doing this?"
Shh.
And her only response?
No more questions.
Back up into space after our time stops. Again, I love that scene. It's a good scene.
Yeah.
Commander, I'm showing 2 soda ships on an intercept course. 18 minutes until they reach. Won't be able to get a transmission out for at least another hour.
They're hailing us. Tell them our transceiver assembly's not working. We can send messages, but we can't receive.
Sure. I don't think they believe us.
Why not? And the impact of a photon torpedo.
Oh, I didn't catch it. Jump back down to the foothills. Cheeky moment. I'm not offended at this joke.
I'm not offended at the joke, but this is one of those... did it really need to be in there kind of things.
Yeah, acceptable, but wouldn't have hurt to at least lose the second half of it.
Agreed.
It's the second half that makes the first half.
Cringy.
Well, no. It's one of those. It's all or nothing. You either need to go full on absurd, which they did, or not at all. Because
Exactly.
here we have Data being helpful and helping spread some rations so people stay hydrated and everything. And he overhears the conversation between Troy and Crusher.
Hey, Jared, I want another script reading. I'll be Crusher.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Fine. And have you noticed how your boobs have started to firm up?
Not that we care much about those things in this day and age.
Uh-huh. Oh,
Thank you, Mr. Data. And then, yeah, you're welcome, Jay. We'll be seeing that later. And then Data goes over to Worf, and Worf says that he's having these odd cravings for the blood of a live Kolar beast. This environment is affecting me again.
and have you noticed how your boobs are firming up? Not that we care about those.
Pew, pew, as they start getting shot at, and Worf yells, "Take cover."
And this is where we see the implementation of the isolinear tags to get around those pesky kelbonite deposits that are all over the mountain range and the hills that they're going through. And this is where you guys couldn't have done a better job on the graphics.
The CGI everywhere else in this movie are amazing. This scene sucks.
Oh yeah.
As those vessels are flying around and shooting the tags, just the little crafts flying around just kills it for me. I mean, yeah, you could have spent an extra $10 and it would have been better. And as King Cruz points out, shh, NASA is watching. So we start seeing people disappearing as they're getting shot with the isolinear tags. Several of them get taken down and shot.
And we're getting... Yeah, it's just...
Weapons training in Starfleet sucks.
Oh yeah.
Well, and here's the question of, there is a module on the top of that is supposed to be an optical sight. Why is no one using it?
Gangster style?
Yeah, more like, we'll trust it in post. But, so we get more of the defense of the people, the running, really amping up that action part, because we really are getting to the crescendo. We are getting to that climax, because we know the particulars of what's going on. We believe we know all of the details of what's going on. But there might still be some missing pieces here. But we're definitely gotten to the crux main core issue, and it's understanding. Now it's just, how is it going to be resolved? Mm-hmm. Picard has decided to disobey orders and go rogue. Some of his command staff has joined him, while the rest of the command staff has agreed with him and are going on a support mission to spread the information. And as Picard put it to Riker, put a face to the Baku for the Federation Council. Mm-hmm. Because from a bureaucratic standpoint, from a governmental standpoint, it is very easy to ignore the plight of a person that you don't have a face for. It's just a name. Yep. It's just a detail. What does it matter? We deal with those all the time. But once you actually put a face to it, once you actually complete the picture, then it becomes hard to ignore.
Yep. And then after this, we jump out to see what's going on in the Briar Patch. And this is, mentioned it earlier, Riker in the seat. I love Riker in the seat. And this is true captaining right here. as they're being pursued by the Sona. Shields are down to 60%. LaForge lets them know that they're literally burning deuterium. We're going to blow ourselves up.
And Riker, with the situational awareness, is like, wait a minute, what's inside that nebula cluster? And
Cometary debris, pockets of unstable Metreon gas. We don't want to go in there, sir.
yes, we do. At which point, Riker takes over helm control directly from the ensign who was standing post.
Not yet. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, correct.
And he says, it's time to use the Briar Patch like Brer Rabbit did. And what you were thinking is when he goes to the manual...
the next scene,
yeah.
Yep. So they go into the Briar Patch, jump back down, and I love this one. They're right outside the cave. Worf's phaser fails, so he swings it and bashes down one of the isolinear taggers. And turns to Picard, definitely feeling aggressive tendencies, sir.
and this is one of those, yeah, okay, it fits, it works within it. Could we have done without it? Maybe, but no. That is the type of camp that is expected and appreciated in Star Trek. But some of the rest of it, could do without. But that line there.
Yeah.
Now, this is where, little flashback, we didn't get into all the details of it before. Part of the hallmarks of the Sona, and I'm guessing part of why they were in league with the Dominion versus the Federation and the rest of the Alpha Quadrant powers, is they use subspace weapons. Weapons that are outlawed by the Second Khitomer Accords. And we will soon find out why, because they just detonated one, and a subspace tear is forming. In which...
Yeah. And then one of the crewmen says, I thought subspace weapons were banned by the Khitomer Accord.
Remind me to lodge a protest. And then we get the information from LaForge that their warp core, which directly manipulates subspace, is acting like a magnet to the tear. We're pulling it like a zipper across space.
Options?
We could eject the core.
Will it stop the tear?
You got me, Commander.
And then detonating the warp core might neutralize the cascade. Then again, it might not. Subspace weapons are unpredictable. That's why they were banned.
Yeah. And then Daniels, the off-camera on the tactical console, the terror is closing in on us. Impact in 15 seconds. And Riker...
Wait. I love this. This is how a crew should operate. And this is a senior commander and a senior engineering officer that click.
Chang, chief engineer to boot. So...
Yeah. So at that point, Riker commands...
Eject the core.
I just did. Was he right or was he wrong? He did it without the command. Because he knew what Riker was going to do.
It's one of those, technically he's in the wrong for doing it before officially getting the command, but in circumstances like this, in battle, because of the nature and the speed of things, not an issue.
Yep. Yep. Thanks, crew. Thanks.
Nice. And then as Riker commands to detonate the warp core, other things happen. It explodes. And we get another apparent failure of the inertial dampeners, which, why isn't everyone then dead?
It worked, Commander. The tear has been sealed.
Yeah, but there's nothing to stop them from doing it again. We're fresh out of warp cores. Yeah, they're not the Voyager. Which that is a thing. Of all the times that they have attempted to use the core ejection sequence, this is only the second time that it's actually worked properly, or wasn't knocked offline by some other random occurrence.
I'll give you the next good line, Jared. So they're back on the bridge, and one of the crew members says, "And we're still 36 minutes from transmission range, sir."
Oh, and Riker, we're through running from these bastards.
This is where I ask you. You have 2 ships that you've been offered to be a crewman on. One of them is commanded by William Riker, and one of them is commanded by Jean-Luc Picard. Which ship do you get on?
Holy, oh. Oh, wow. That is actually a really tough call.
That's harder than
Kirk
and Picard. Riker and Picard is harder than Kirk and Picard. Part of me wants to say Riker.
I wouldn't mind following Deanna around.
For me, hang on. For me, it will come down to 2 ancillary questions. What posts on either ship, and which class vessel?
Identical ships. Okay, well, let's make this super hard. They are identical class ships, and you're being offered the number 2 seat. Who do you want calling you number 1?
You know what? I would have to go with Riker. It's a very minor difference. The subtle difference between them, and it has nothing to do with their differences in command style or anything. I think it would be more of a learning experience with Riker as a CO and me as XO versus with Picard, simply because Riker's younger. He's going to be sent out to different places.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. I think not that either is better than the other. I think it's leadership style that I would gravitate more towards Riker.
I could adapt and be comfortable with both. Especially if you're following Riker as the XO under Picard. Picard has softened up, and Picard has become more well-rounded and not as strict and hardline as he was at the outset. He wasn't as distant and difficult. He still has his moments, but any CO is going to. So that's where I would actually look at it for things outside of the direct relationship with them. More of what are the chances of the assignments that we should get. A senior captain like Picard is more in the second and third tier in orders from the front, where
you're going to be doing diplomatic missions more than you're going to be doing exploratory.
Exactly, and that's why I'd go with Riker.
Yeah. All right, sorry to sidetrack. We can get back to the movie because we still have a shitload of slides left.
Well, to be fair, there was actually a good amount of action here between everything. With you have the chase in space where the Sona are trying to stop the Enterprise from communicating out with the rest of Starfleet and the Federation to let them know what was going on. And cut to the next slide. On the surface, you have Picard and the rest of his command staff trying to directly protect the Baku and keep them from being removed from the planet as best that they can, given the terrain and everything going on.
And at this point, they start getting bombarded from above because they're being in that cave. They're being protected.
Yeah.
So we do a little exploring. to try and find a back way out.
And Data recognizes, hey, we have flowing water here. Let's follow it and see where it goes. It goes to this wall. Hey, there's nitrogen oxygen flow on the other side. So they open up and they get this. Hey, here's our way out. But because of the shakiness of the cavern before, why they were still looking for a way out, they're not out of harm's way yet. They're not out of the woods yet.
And then back up into space where they are still being chased by the Baku.
Sona.
Not Baku, Sona, sorry, the Sona. Asked about what's in the clouds ahead of them. Metreon gas, it's highly volatile, and Riker instructs he wants to use the ram scoops to collect up as much of it as he can. And this is the weird scene.
Yeah, this is where it becomes a why. So we get a beautiful shot of what the Broussard collectors are actually used for, and they can filter out for whatever they're wanting to collect. Normally it's hydrogen and helium, but this time it was targeted for that Metreon gas, and Riker just had to play with his joystick.
It's been
Riker
a long
loves playing
day.
with his joystick all the time. What are you talking about?
Too bad he didn't have Troy there. Or, yeah, he didn't have Troy there, but she could have helped.
Yeah, well, that's one of those things of why. I understand why Paris had the manual controls like that on the Delta Flyer, because he's that sort of person. There was no indication of that from Riker ever, so why would a manual steering column like that be a thing?
Yeah, that's not necessary.
No, it's not. And this is where, yes, people, we have been on the better side of reviewing this movie, but that is something that didn't need to happen.
No. So they go and dump the gas and then ignite it.
Oh, no, they didn't ignite it. They did it properly. Yeah. They left the trail knowing that the Sona were pursuing them. The first Sona ship still fired before realizing what it was, igniting the gas, destroying themselves, and damaging this pursuing ship.
And LaForge points out, I wouldn't be surprised if history remembers this as the Riker maneuver. I thought that happened in the bedroom.
Or was the Riker maneuver the way he would sit down in a chair when he was walking up from behind and just swing a leg over the top of it?
Yeah. Back down on the surface, we continue, and now we've got the nice AT-4 that they brought along with them.
Why? Oh, I know why. Because they could. Because they wanted to it was a way to justify the line earlier with how much firepower Picard was taking with him, even when he just thought it was himself.
He brought a shit ton for a one-man army. But then at this point, we also realize that, and I didn't get a screenshot of it, now we have a physical assault of Sona on the hillside.
Yep.
Several of them have become injured, and as they're running away... Foreshadowing?
Oh, no. This is where we find out.
The reveal.
Crusher finally gets the scans that she was looking for.
But they don't say.
Yeah.
It just says, Captain, take a look at this metascan, his DNA profile.
You're right. Yep. Finally get the information. For them, all the pieces are now together. We as the audience don't know just yet. And oh, crew, I am still in discussions with the plot hole to have that discussion. Actually, you know what? We could do it as a 2-on-2. You know, I will email them about that. Because because I have a feeling Jay in the plot hole, Furball and myself.
Yep.
So, anyways,
if I must demolish you guys, then I will.
Yeah, okay. But what we have here is a kid being a kid, brought his palm pet. Yes, that is what the actual script called it, a palm pet. It's not a frickin' porg. Goes looking for it and ends up finding it, but they realize
He got
We're
left
missing-
behind and stayed in the cave.
we're missing people.
Furball, were you trying not to laugh at Christ Puncher's comment?
Well, at least he's not God's auditor always talking about how much he loves dicks.
Hey, you know, once you've had the right dick, you can't get enough. Just saying.
Apparently there are some people who never find the right one.
It's always a quest.
And
So
speaking,
they get
and
the kid
speaking
out?
of quests,
Shall we talk about a galaxy one?
later.
It's on the list. All right, so they get the kid out. Now Picard is trying to get her out. As I click off, there we go. And we have some debris fall due to impacts, and find out that they are trapped inside.
Anaj and Picard are trapped.
Yep. Now, this is where the first time you're watching, and again today, for a brief moment, you got, oh shit, we've got one of those stuck in the caves where they're going to have to spend the rest of the movie trying to get him out. This was just brief enough for the purpose.
Yep.
And I missed the screenshot. This is Commander Data picking up a giant frickin' rock and throwing it to the side.
Because android's got an android.
Yeah. So Picard wakes up inside. Picard is okay. Anaj is not. And an extremely tender moment as Picard realizes that how hurt she is.
And I wonder how much of this is actually directly related to the metaphasic radiation, because before, Picard asked the question, how are you doing this? And yet, this time, she's hurt. Picard is there in a highly emotional state, a highly sensitive state, and what happens? Time starts to slow down for them.
He says, Anaj, stay with me. Help me find the power to keep you in this moment. Stay with me. Don't let go of this moment. And time stands still. And the next thing we see, she is receiving medical care. So, I can see why this planet would be enticing for anyone to stay forever.
Yeah. And this just goes to show, proper writing, you have setups and then you have payoffs. You have a continuity. You have connections across the entire story of things coming around full circle.
So she's safe. She's stable enough to get her out of there, and they start their extrication from the cave. And again,
Back
now
to the
they are
droids.
back to the shitty CGI. And Data's cheesy as shit flip down the rock in front of somebody else's muzzle.
Do a barrel roll.
Come on, you know there are guys in the army that do that all the time.
The combat rolls? Yeah.
Yeah.
Too bad JM
And
didn't get in the crossfire one. Wait, did I say that out loud? Damn it.
So now they
And I'm
start
being
getting
heckled by the
tagged.
wife in the background.
Everyone starts getting tagged and beamed out. And the next thing we see is that everybody is now on board a Sona ship.
Well, not everyone. There are still a number who left, but the next group of them, which included Picard and Anaj.
And Admiral Doherty, order them to surrender. I promise you won't be court-martialed. I don't know if you have that authority anymore, especially if everyone gets off this planet alive.
But that's the thing. To this point right now, there is no reason why Doherty should expect it, because he's assuming that Riker was halted and is being escorted back. No communication got out. His is going to be the first word out. It's going to be his version of the story that people hear first. That's what he's expecting. He'd be wrong, but that's what he's expecting to happen. And Picard rightfully responds, if a court-martial is the only way to let the people of the Federation know what is happening here, I welcome it. Which, that's the thing people don't realize, is just because you go to a court-martial in the military doesn't automatically and inherently mean your career is over. There are times where requesting a court-martial to deal with an issue is actually a wise choice, but at the same time, not in today's military, not in today's climate. That ended.
Ask Kirk about it.
That ended probably that probably ended towards the end of the 70s, when a court-martial could be utilized properly as a neutral arbitrative means in that manner.
So this is where in the movie the third door opens and we find what the twist is. As Ruffo is saying that in 6 hours every living thing in this system will be dead or dying. And he's fed up. It's done. He's doing what he plans. We're done. And Picard straight up asks him, would you kill your own people, Ruffo? Your own parents, brothers, sisters? Did you know that, Admiral? The Sona and the Baku are the same race.
That not only is it wrong on what has been shown to this point, in all of this, Picard looks at Doherty and straight up says, "You're an accomplice to patricide."
There's some interaction as they're trying to figure out who they were, and Sojeff states that about a century ago, a group of our young people wanted to follow the ways of the Offlanders. They tried to take over the colony, and when they failed, Graffo's response to that is, when we failed, you exiled us to die slowly. So clearly, this is a vengeful quest.
And Anaj there, she's starting to recognize who's who, simply because of that tonality, that inflection, the manner of response. That you're Roatan, aren't you?
And flat out tells him here, you brought the Federation into the middle of a blood feud, Admiral. The children have returned to expel the elders, just as they once were expelled. Except that Raffo's need for revenge has now escalated to patricide.
And Doherty, in his self-justification, this is the denial. He's become aware of it. Now he's internally trying to deny the reality and the gravity of the situation by the justification of, it was for the Federation. It was all for the Federation.
Sure it was.
And it's at this point Doherty tries to turn back. He tries to start to do the right thing finally by saying, we're taking the ship out of here. This mission is over. Wrong person to say it to, wrong situation to say it to him, and wrong fucking place to say it to him because your ass is about to get kicked.
He beats your ass and then he puts you into the lovely face stretcher.
And
And Rafa's last words to him: the Federation will never know what happened here.
Yep. And
You know, that should have been your thumbnail.
no. Yeah, trying to keep it playful because then Rafa gets up to the bridge and this is the sociopath that has taken over that is on display here because no other personality type could go from that and then show up here and say, oh, Admiral Doherty will not be joining us for dinner. Deploy the Collector. So that immediate dismissal of, oh yeah, don't worry about that guy anymore. Let's go ahead and start fucking shit up. Let's do what we came here to.
Do you have a problem with that order? And now Gallatin recognizes that something is not quite right. Moving them is one thing, but killing them all. And even though other people on this group may have changed their mind or recognizing that what they're doing is wrong, Ruafo is not one of them.
No, not even close. Because right here, Rafu, the tip that sociopathic manipulator, but no one hated them more than you, Galna. We've come a long way together. This is the moment we've planned so many years for. It's like, we're right here. All you got to do is take one more step. Just one more step, man. Come on. Let's do it. Just one more step. Never mind that step is off a cliff to your ruin.
And then they walk back out onto the bridge, and Rafa tells them, separate the Starfleet crew and secure them in the aft cargo hold. See that Picard joins them.
And Galna says shields in that section won't protect them against the thermolytic reaction. Oh, thank you for reminding me, asshole.
And now, we'll get there eventually, but whatever this thing is fucking enormous.
Yeah, so for a bit of scale, because we are going to get.
We'll see the scale later.
We'll see it soon.
Scale later.
But remember, people need to remember the reported length of the Enterprise E is over 600 meters long. Remember that. It is over half a kilometer long. The Enterprise E is.
So now Galna takes Picard specifically away. They go out in the hallway, and Picard starts doing... This is one of those things that I don't think Riker could have done.
Exactly. So this is one of the few differences with it. This is Picard showing his experience, and this is the... how is it put in Star Wars? Aggressive negotiations. It's that style of diplomacy coming out. It must have been strange for you when you were a hostage, surrounded by all the friends and family you knew all those years ago, each one looking exactly as they did then, like looking through the eyes of childhood again. And here you are closing those eyes, trying not to see what bitterness has done to the Sona. How it's turned Raffo into a madman. And you? It's turned you into a coward. A man who denies his own conscience.
Tells him to get in.
A coward without the moral courage to prevent an atrocity. You offend me.
Is this how a Federation officer pleads for his life?
I'm not pleading for my life. I'm pleading for yours. You can still go home, Galna. And it was... Would it really have been that simple? Would it really have taken just that amount of prodding from Picard to truly get this sort of reaction?
I would say from your average thug, no, but you had already seen. Picard didn't know this. So this is a card that Picard is playing from his hand that he'd have played regardless of who's on the other side of the table. He just happened to be lucky enough to have somebody who's already expressing doubt.
True. There is that part, but I think with that being the case, a little bit of more surprise from Picard on how quickly he decides to go along with him.
Fuck, it worked.
Would have been, I thought this would have taken a little longer.
So now Galna agrees, yes, we're wrong. Picard asks him if he knows how to disable the injector. He says that he'd need to be on the bridge. The crew is loyal to Rafo. An assault will fail. And then perhaps we can lure him away.
And this is where Picard already has a couple ideas and is like,
Before Karis retracted her message, she had a request.
Yeah, because the D was surprisingly large.
Nice. And Picard asks, can you get me to a transmitter? I'm going to need to talk to my people on the surface. And Galna takes him right to where he needs to go.
Okay.
And this
now we've got Rafo back on the bridge. Instructs to initiate the separator protocols.
And during that, Data comes up in the captain's yacht and is peppering the shields of Rafu's ship.
But he's not doing much.
But a keen-eye observer would actually see that what he's doing, he's not firing actual weapons. He is popping off tachyon bursts. Because what was it that Worf and Picard tried against Data when they first got to the planet? They did the same thing. They tried to use tachyon bursts to force Data to reset his shield harmonics so they could try transporting him out. It didn't work because Data caught on and stopped him. But at this point, because the countdown's going on, and because, hey, we're about to cook shit, and, well, I want to live because I want to benefit from what's going on, Data is pretty much pulling the Nat routine. I'm going to buzz around and being annoying enough to distract you from what you're doing so the other guys can do what they actually need to. But by doing that, what's happening is Data's weakening their shields in such a way that it's subtle enough that they could be okay under most circumstances, but they need to reset the harmonics, which is essentially resetting the shields so they can actually be protected from the radiation. And what happens during that cycling? We get the flash.
The bridge suddenly lights up in a very brightly for about 3 seconds, and I only caught this much of it.
Yeah, it was a bit of a tough catch. But so we have that, and at first, rightfully so, they're like, wait a minute, what the hell was that? But then, because of the countdown, they're immediately back to the task at hand. Is the collector deploying? What are the results from the collector? And everything going on there. And
separation in 15 seconds. 5 seconds.
And
assembly separated.
Yeah, and they get the view of what they're expecting. The collector separating. They're getting the dance on the rings. And it looks like everything has gone to plan despite everything that the Federation was trying to muck up. And then
now, I do love the irony of Ruafo's comment here. Exactly as the simulations predicted.
Yep. Some would say, oddly, exactly like.
Exactly.
But this astute crew member recognizes, wait a minute, we have a problem here. the radiation levels aren't changing.
All ship's functions are offline.
And
then Ruafo notices.
Well, and in his panic to try to find, like, everything that is working but not working, and then he catches that glint.
And, you've got to be absolutely certain to start doing this.
Well, that was the confirmation that, yep, we're on the holodeck. And, almost taking off that guy's face to boot. And then Rafu gets his bearings, finds the door, they step out, and they see we're not on our ship anymore, and the Collector didn't engage and complete the separation process. And, did you really... Whose idea was that?
I'm going to type out in the side chat here the exact terminology that he used. Let me make sure there's a capital there. There. Oh! He's a pirate.
Looks like the guy behind him is a butt pirate, but
Oh yeah, the dude with the butt head has a very surprised look on his face.
That face is understandable. And we get the view that, hey, they stopped it. But hey, they didn't stop it at the 1 second mark. They stopped it at 6.
We're getting better at this. And we can see that they've got the holo ship in tow. But clearly the movie cannot be over quite yet.
Nope. Not that easy. So what we end up realizing is they did just the bridge crew. The rest of the crew finally starts catching on, hey, something's not right here. And they're still loyal to Rafu. Amongst that, you get the attempt of trying to remotely disable completely the Collector, so it cannot even be retried. But Rafu, being as resourceful as he is, manages to get himself transported off the holo ship onto the Collector itself. And
now just a reminder that Worf is on the Sona ship.
Now, yes.
Yep.
So on the bridge currently, it's Galna, Worf, and for a time it was Picard. And once they started realizing that the crew was not going to let them continue with what they were doing, and with Rafu now being on the Collector itself, they only had one option. Someone had to go aboard the Collector to set the self-destruct, which would have a near immediate cascade, which would give them, 20 seconds for Picard to then leave the Collector?
I don't know if they said. All I saw was there's a 2-second delay from initiation to detonation.
Well, yeah, when the detonation start, but then 2-second delay. They don't say how the explosions go, but we get Picard against Rafu aboard the Collector itself. Just before Picard left, though, Galna gave him a warning. At this... Where is it? Right here. 1 minute before separation, you'll see the cryogenic tanks venting. Weapons fire may ignite the exhaust.
Mm-hmm.
And then transport happens while Picard is fighting... While getting into position and dealing with Rafu on the Collector, the rest of the crew break into the bridge and decide to go after Worf. Bad idea. Very bad idea.
Yeah, I don't care how many people you got in your posse. Don't go after a Klingon.
Especially one going through puberty again after already being mature.
Oh, yeah, that is true. So now we get Riker coming back in. Picard calls out. Riker informs him that they're approaching his position. And do you need any assistance?
Need a ride in about a minute.
So, and one thing that I just would like to point out here, are Navy captains just as able to operate every single mechanical device on every ship throughout the galaxy
No.
as Starfleet captains are?
No.
No.
Yeah, because he walked up to the launch pad in Generations. There is not a device that Picard can't walk up to
And figure
and
it
operate.
out. Well, wait a minute. Unless we're talking about a ship being run by someone else in about 30 years in the timeline, supposedly. Because apparently once a competent pilot all the way through his career within 5 to 10 years after no longer being in it, now apparently he doesn't know how to do jack. Oh, wait a minute. Never mind.
So
we're on our way. Separation in 1 minute. Things start to vent. And here where Riker asks for a report. And
sensors are reading over 100 Baku on board.
and one Klingon. Target their ventral engines and life support. Set a collision course. Riker is getting a lot of points for who you would want to serve with.
Exactly. I told you. Set a collision course right there. That's the face of a captain that I want to be behind in war. Raffo gets a little pissy. Picard wants to blow up his toy.
Yeah, and Raffo, stop! It's like, Raffo, we're getting too old for this.
After today, that won't be a problem for either of us.
You're really going to risk igniting the exhaust? At which point you see Raffo actually lean back and put the weapon down and not threatening Picard with it. And Picard, without missing a beat, all right, I will.
Pew! Throws Raffo off the ledge. And now we've got Raffo's ship in the direct collision course with the Enterprise.
Which, apparently their shields are still at 60%.
Hold course. And then we get back over to the Sona ship. And Gallatin, he wouldn't.
Yes, he would. Now,
And at the last second,
Riker, now. And
veers away and gets 2 shots off onto the Sona ship.
knocks out their engines, knocks out the life support. And this is where we get quite the moment where the countdown is passing below 10 seconds. And Riker tells, stand by, Captain, we're right around the corner.
And Picard tells Raffo, sorry, time's up. And he turns off.
Well, that wasn't to Raffo. That was actually to Riker.
I don't think that was to anyone. That was just
He was. If you listen, it was a direct response because Riker just says, "Stand by, Captain. We're right around the corner." Meaning we're coming. We're about to get you. And Picard is like, "No, can't risk it. Sorry, time's up."
Oh, yeah, you're right. You are absolutely right. That was a resignation that he's probably not getting off.
Yep. Well. So he inserts the last key, and the self-destruct sequence starts, and it starts at the far end of the collector. Now, again, remember, the Enterprise E is over 600 meters long. And watch as it takes multiple seconds at this velocity to go from one end to the other.
Where did they have this built? If the Sona are the sons of the Baku, how did they have the finances or the capabilities to build this?
Well, keep in mind, a couple of the Sona, who are the genetic descendants of the Baku, were kicked off the planet, and they don't say how long they've been out and around, but judging by the amount of work that they've been dealing with, it hasn't been a short amount of time. So they went somewhere, established themselves, and it's not just the Baku origin ones who are part of the crew. So they managed to do well enough for themselves to be in a position to where, keep in mind, they were a leading source of Ketracel White for the Dominion in the Alpha Quadrant.
True.
That was a lot of production power that they had for that alone. So it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, this was not a small project, we'll just say that.
Yeah.
And then as Picard is beamed off the ship, I love it's smug, but it's playful smug. What kept you, number one?
The Federation Council has asked me to inform you that the Baku relocation will be halted while they conduct a top-level review. Sir, Rafu's ship is hailing us, and both of them on screen.
Yes.
Which
Who's the captain at that moment?
Which tells you, well, well, Picard is, but
yeah,
but you can tell Riker's ready. He has finally accepted. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, now it's my time.
Oh, and then this is great. So on screen, Commander Worf, Captain, the Sona's crew would like to negotiate a ceasefire. It may have something to do with the fact that they have 3 minutes of air left.
We have plenty over here, Mr. Worf.
Prepare to beam aboard.
And now we're getting the wrap-up. We really are at the close, and you still have some... You really get to more of that character development arcs that really stood out to me on this, where Riker, in just talking, kind of musing with his friends, because that's this type of conversation at this point. Do you think when we get away from this metaphasic radiation, it'll change the way we feel?
Your feelings about her have not changed since the day you met, Commander.
No.
This place...
No, is... From Worf's point of view, this is directly with Worf, is your feelings about her have not changed since the day I met you, Commander. This place just let them out for a little fresh air. So that makes you wonder, because the flirtation started before they got into the briar patch. So there was already a little bit there. The door was already ajar. But the briar patch just helped knock it off the hinges.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jeff makes a comment, I wish that there was a way to bring them back home. Picard tells him, ask.
Yeah.
I'm afraid there's too much bitterness on both sides. And here we see a reunion of a mother and her son.
You arranged this? I thought it might be.
It would begin the healing process.
And this is where kind of want to smack some other writers and showrunners because apparently they completely forgot this place existed. Because we get that revelation from Picard, who just 2 movies before was hit with the bombshell that he was going to be the end of the Picard line. His brother, his sister-in-law, and his uncle, and their child, Renee, had passed away. So he is the end of the family line. He is the end of that branch of Picard's. But here he has a chance for that to not be the case. Someone who has been the exemplar explorer who would never be tied down to anything more than his ship now has something to actually return to. A place he could eventually call home, and like what Soren was saying, the Predator has no teeth. But no, forget all that stuff. That doesn't matter. Who cares about continuity and that sort of shit in world building anyways?
I know that there are long-term contracts and movies that have to be made and this and that, but how would you have felt if Picard had stayed?
Fitting.
This could have been the end of the Next Generation timeline. And I think it would have fit. Because Riker could have flown away as the captain, commanding the crew that he has earned and he deserves to fly away with. And Picard could continue to carry on his line with someone who clearly he has the ability to stop time with.
Now, for all the buildup that they had and the implications between Riker and Beverly, between Picard and Crusher, you didn't get this. You got little, well, there might be, there could be. But both of them were the type of officers who, no. There are lines, yeah, we flirted with it, but we're not going to cross those lines. Just no. The reason why Troy and Riker get away with it is they were a romantic item first. Then they were part of the crew together. So you had that bit to where it wasn't that they built something that wasn't there to begin with. It wasn't that they were together by convenience because, well, who else are they going to be with being on the same ship for as long as they were? No, they had the relationships and they had their beginnings and their roots long before then.
True. This would have been a beautiful ending.
Yeah. And then the way...
They pulled it off in Toy Story 4.
Eh? But then
I haven't watched that yet. No spoilers.
But then again, that's Pixar, not Disney.
True. So then, after this touching moment, Picard says that he can't stay. There's too many things going on in the Federation, that he needs to be there to slow them down from the things that are happening. But he does have 318 days of shore leave coming, and he intends to use them.
Which might...
And then should be here.
Which, again, that would have been a very fitting place to end it, because it was another 4 years before the next film was released. They could have relocated Picard off of the Enterprise and given it to Riker.
Mm-hmm.
And could have kept things going. They could have handled it better and done a more proper transition. Kind of like what they did with Kirk and Spock between the original series and the movies. But at the same time, would at this point would Picard have taken a promotion to Admiral? Because keep in mind, just a couple movies ago, he was told by Kirk, "Don't let him promote you, don't let him transfer you, don't let him do anything that takes you from the bridge of that ship."
Because while you're there, you can make a difference.
And I still think that's part of what's driving Picard at this point. He is a historian. He loves that pursuit of knowledge of the past to better understand and address the future. So having the captain of captains from the early era of the Federation, of Starfleet, telling you when you're there, that is the best place to be. I don't see Picard becoming an admiral. I see him retiring before that.
But think of this. If he had stayed there, if he had retired, if he'd done whatever, and the next movie had been Riker at the helm, I'm kind of pissed now because...
That's how it should have been.
Sulu got a ship. There could have been another series of Next Generation with Riker at the helm. That would have been awesome.
Yep. But
I will give them
the way that they end this movie. Oh, this is going towards this, where we cut to the hayfields that we see before, how the Baku are getting back to their normal routine after everything that happened. So,
and if you remember the opening scene, we see the hayfield, and we see the little boy pop out of the haystack.
And then Data.
And Crusher, Data, it's time to go. Data, this line is so adorable.
I have to go home now.
Bye.
It is that wonderful innocence that a character like Data brings to this type of setting. Even though Data has been around for decades, the character himself has been around, but he's only had emotions for a few years. He's still learning that aspect of humanity. And what I think there was one thing missing from this scene. Well, here's the question. Do you think Data has his emotion chip installed for this?
No.
I think he does.
You think so?
I think so. I think for this moment, for making sure everything's back and him going to play like that.
Yeah, he would have wanted to experience it that way.
Yeah. Why not have just that little shed of a tear as he turns after walking back? Just show that little bit of extra growth towards what he's been striving for.
And Atrum has the best advice. Don't forget, you have to have a little fun every day.
And which Riker acknowledges. It's good advice. And this is how I know, this is why I believe Data has the emotion chips installed. Because what does he do to Riker right after he says that?
Oh, I missed that, yeah. He flips Riker's nose.
Yep. He does the you got something on your shirt. Boop.
Yep.
And of course, Picard has his goodbye.
A heartless goodbye.
Potential missed. I think that is the most glaring issue with this movie. Potential at the end, for the end of the movie, this bit at the end, major potential missed.
It was such a well-written love story into the movie, and you just botched it at the end, where you could have easily resolved several storylines and started a whole new chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And then we wouldn't have had the Kelvin timeline, I think. So why the fuck didn't we do this?
Yes.
I think part of it does come down to... So keep in mind, I think at this point, they weren't contracted for a next movie. I don't know. Well, because so up to this point, it had been every 2 years that they had released a TNG movie. But then it's another 4 before Nemesis. So I think that there was that issue of, okay, this may have been the last, but it wasn't contracted or planned to be the last. And then there was that big gap to Nemesis, and it's like, okay, well, it's been this long. The crew is starting to age out. Nemesis needs to be the end. So they went into it with the intent and purpose of wrapping up the storylines for the crew, for the individuals of the crew. And I think that's part of where they went wrong with it as well. By having such a specific ending already in place, they handcuffed themselves on the writing of the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
But, so, in all, you know what? Furball, I think I know where you're sitting at. But, so, Jay, with the advantage of time and hindsight, does Insurrection, is it better than you recall? About the same? Or is it actually the horrible Star Trek movie that a lot of people try to characterize it as?
Every time I go into watching it, I always look at it as one of the worst Star Trek movies. And every time I come out of it after watching it, I'm like, this really wasn't that bad. It's just the glaring plot holes that they leave open, various storylines. They could have done things better. They didn't have to do all the corny jokes, but you know, the corny jokes are kind of what brings it back to what the original fandom of Next Generation enjoyed. You know, the little quirky humor that they'd have on the bridge, or they'd have in the turbo lifts and things like that. Ultimately, though, I would rank First Contact, probably Generations, and then, well, Generations and this are kind of a toss-up at that 2A, 2B, and then 4 is Nemesis.
You know, I will have to say, you know what? No. But before I get into it, so Furball, well, where is the standing and rankings of? Let's just stick to the TNG crew movies. Where does this rank for you?
Number 2. First Contact, my favorite. I could watch that once a week happily. I love First Contact. I don't know if I ever actually appreciated this one for what it was, because I've never really sat down and thought about it as much as I did today, and all the subplots in there, and I like what they had set up. I wish the ending could have had better closure, but I recognize that's not what most Star Trek movies do. They always leave the door open. It would have been nice at this point to have closed the door in a nice, solid, satisfying way. But this is number 2. I feel this is above Generations. Generations had too many plot holes, too many things that didn't make sense.
Too much that just felt off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I'm right there in agreement with you. Of the TNG crew movies, hands down, First Contact is the best. It's up there with Wrath of Khan and Voyage Home in the entire pantheon of Trek movies.
Oh yeah,
it's that good. It is.
Oh yeah,
it's top 3, top 4 of the movies. It's right there. I even put it on par even with Star Trek 6. So those 4 are, by and large, that's the top tier. That is your elite tier Star Trek movies. I hadn't watched Insurrection in a number of years until just this past week. And it is far better than I remember it being. And I will admit that part of this probably is by watching it with less expectations, less baggage, and more of a mature view of the nuances of the entire storyline, to where it is a more complete movie. And as Fred Knotts said in the live chat, it felt more like a 2-part show of the series than a movie, which is why I rank it as high, because it's quintessential Star Trek. It is character based. It is actually action for a purpose, action for a reason, and for the most part, yes, there were issues, yes, there were errors in the movie, and we called them out as they were there, as it was necessary, but it showed off the best of each of the main characters that it showed, and yet still brought in the new characters that were mission and location specific, but did it in such a way that it wasn't that they were trying too hard, and it wasn't that they showed a lack of effort or care. It was that right balance between where they recognized, yes, these characters we have to fill in to give enough information, and the way they did it worked. We were, Furball and I were talking off air before, and comparing how this very much was like an episode or a 2-part episode from the series, and compared that to the motion picture, which the script for that started out as a pilot for a new series, not a feature-length movie. One of them made the transition effectively from the small screen to the large screen. The other didn't.
Not at all.
Not even close.
So I just had an interesting thought for a metric on a movie like this, and it won't apply to every type of movie, but how would you feel about this movie as a 12-episode season? Is the plot line dense enough?
No.
That you don't think so?
If you filled it out with the plot holes that we talked about, and you're going to end the Next Generation on it, possibly. But if you're going to keep it basically the way it is, then no.
Yeah, and that's where I say no, because if you're sticking with the main story arc that they had throughout, then no, there's not enough story there to flesh it out for a full season if you're doing a single arc season like that. But if you're going to go into more of the nuances and offshoots of it as well, and fully flush out the entire situation, to where instead of 10 episodes being over the span of 10 days, whereas if you spread that out to more of the span of over a couple months, so you have that built-in mechanism to explain the amount of information that's there and the progression, then you have a chance. But there needs to be that filler. There needs to be that larger story building around it.
I think that there's enough here that they could fill it out. Backstory on the Sona, backstory on how this mission started. I think this could fill out a season. Like Kara says, a mini season. Not a full Next Generation 24, 30 episode season. No. But 8 to 10 8, 10, 12 episodes, I think you could.
8 to 12, I would say, but this would be the last half. What we got here, this amount of the storyline, would be about half of it. But you would need the build up to it. Then that could work.
Mm-hmm. But then there's, movies like Episode 1, that could never be a season. And I hate to say it, Episode 4, I don't think I could accept that as a short season. Maybe. Yeah, I think King Crew's got the right idea. It's 1:20 a.m. This is the longest episode so far, isn't it?
But again, it was also it has been. But at the same time, I think this one was worth it because this is one of those movies that I think does get a bad rep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Because yes, it is an odd numbered Star Trek movie. It was expected to fail, and I think a lot of people latched onto certain things and went too far with it. But now let's take a little step back of it. Keeping it in the context of just the Next Generation movies, it fared better or about the same as what a lot of people would recall. Now put it into the grander scheme of the Star Trek universe with the new offerings we've gotten over the last couple of years. Does this look better in that regard now?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
That's like comparing the original Star Wars trilogy to the prequels or the sequels. It's not a fair.
well,
I mean,
the reason why I say that is because there are so many issues that I brought up in our conversations after watching each episode of Picard in the Discord server, that it's like they forgot this movie even existed.
Oh yeah, it's one of those movies that it's so easy to forget. I mean, how many times have we been wanting to talk about this movie in some reference, and we're like, what movie was that? and we are some of the more diehard science fiction fans out there, and we have a hard time latching onto this movie and its title when we're trying to make a reference. And it's not because we necessarily pass it off as a bad movie. It just, we latch onto the overall community thought of, this didn't really happen. We're thinking it did. But then when you go back and watch it, you're like, this isn't that bad. Why do I keep putting this one down as much as I do?
Yeah, if anything, like, even Star Trek 3, I used to have a more negative view and opinion of it than I do now after watching it not as a child. And I would put this on par with Star Trek 3 in that regard. I would put this and that one neck and neck, because you have that proper storyline, you have that building, you have those bits of actual character development and proper treatment of everything going on. Yeah, you still have some mistakes. Yes, you still have some gaffes here and there, but they're not as egregious as we remember them being. I think Fred Knotts has a point. People were expecting a movie, not a long episode. I would say that, to me, they're when you're coming to a franchise like this, a 2 or 3 part episode arc on the series, the only difference you should see between that and a feature-length film for the same IP is no obvious commercial breaks.
Yeah.
And that's what we had here. We had no moments where it's been like, oh, that would have been perfect for putting in a commercial. Whereas
with the Star Trek the motion picture, they were interlaced everywhere.
Yeah. So.
Well, it's 1:30. I think about that time, Jared.
It really is, and that's where, for the people who have stuck with us throughout, I thank you and greatly appreciate all of you there for enjoying us on this late evening rant.
Thanks for joining us. This was a good one. This was a really good
great one.
Did you want to bring that one up again? Because
It's amazing what you find on Twitter.
Yes, let me fix this so people can see the full glory of it. Come on, come on. Where? No, it's not that one. No, it's not that one. Which? Ah, there it is. Love how it decided to move the entire background. Let's do it.
That's OBS for you.
Yeah. There we go. So apparently we have a new name for this game that we all were familiar with growing up, and can we say thank you, Aaron Raw, for that change?
Hold on, Luke Costello has it right. It would be atheist, atheist, atheist.
This is true. Very good call. And with that, we're going to call it a night. Thank you, everyone who stuck it out with us. Thank you for indulging us on this wonderful adventure. And you know what? Those who are watching afterwards, go ahead and leave a comment below. Has your opinion of this movie changed? Did you think it was bad, and now, like myself and Furball, are seeing it in a better light than you did before? Or are you unswayed, or have we absolutely butchered it and now you hate us even more for it? You know what? Go ahead, leave the comments below, and it'll be interesting to see what everyone's opinion of this one is, because it is one of those forgotten yet polarizing additions to the Star Trek lore. And that, any plans that you guys have going on that you'd like to let the peoples know about before we head off?
No plans on my end other than keeping my children alive until my wife decides to come home. I really should have bought her a return ticket.
Nothing on my end either. Just the standard.
Ring my bell to be a special subscriber.
And with that, good night, everyone. We will see you around on VTW on Friday night, and then, yeah, we'll see what comes up for sci-fi on the next episode of Kanar with Damar, which, who knows, it could be in the middle of the day in a couple weeks, or it could be in the middle of the night again. Guess you'll just have to subscribe, tune in, and click that bell to get reminded of all the shows as they come up and get scheduled.
And LRJ has a comment.
Were we to have a game thing tomorrow? Let's see when I wake up. But probably, possibly. We'll see. Good night, everybody.
Good
Night, everyone. Thanks for joining.